basketball. Hansen quickly licked at the crystal. As he drank the golden liquid, he felt his entire body was on fire. The body of this creature is so big that I wonder when I can finish eating it. Watching the golden growler cut into pieces by him, Hansen felt worried. Any piece in front of him was taller than himself. Hansen wondered how he could eat it. Let me try some first. Hansen picked a tender piece and made a thin slice. Without time to cook, Hansen decided to taste it raw. Very soon, Hansen found out sadly that the meat was as tough as ever. Hansen chewed the meat and felt as if he was chewing calfskin. There was no way his teeth could tear up the meat. He hesitated and summoned Holy Angel, wondering if she would eat it. Hansen saw the little girl started to grow as she ate the meat of the golden growler. Her hair became longer and chest fuller. Her legs became longer, and a pair of white wings started to grow on her back. Hansen felt the little girl looked more and more like the creature she used to be. Her wings became bigger and her body more curvaceous. Jade armor started to formulate on her body as well. Holy Angel. She really had become the Holy Angel. Hansen was dumbstruck and did not know what to say. After eating a small part of the golden growler meat, the little girl had grown into a woman. However, the change had not stopped. The Holy Angel was still bearing her face in the meat. As she ate, the figure of Holy Angel started to shift again. Her blonde hair became almost transparent, her white armor became golden, and even her eyes and halo became pure gold. The Holy Angel turned into an elegant goddess, covered in a sacred aura. After eating all the meat of the golden growler, the Holy Angel turned and walked to Hansen. She approached Hansen until their faces met. Watching the gorgeous yet ice-cold face of the beauty, Hansen was wondering what she wanted to do. All of a sudden, the Holy Angel held Hansen's face with both hands and covered his mouth with her red lips. Damn it, I am molested by a pet. Hansen stared his eyes wide, feeling incredulous. As Hansen was having complex feelings, he suddenly felt suction from the mouth of the Holy Angel. She sucked the piece of meat that he just swallowed out from Hansen's stomach. Holy Angel released Hansen and swallowed the piece of meat, which seemed to make her look more mysterious and pretty. Evolution of Holy Angel complete. Hansen heard the voice in his mind. Checking the data of Holy Angel, Hansen was dazed. Holy Angel, super pet. Hansen could understand that the Holy Angel had evolved into a super creature after eating the meat of the golden growler. However, after she had already become a super pet, the system said she could even evolve further, which was beyond Hansen's comprehension. A super pet must be the top being in First God's sanctuary. If the Holy Angel could evolve even further, what would she become? Watching the innocent girl standing in front of him, Hansen did not know what to think. After finishing evolution, the Holy Angel had dismissed her transformed state and become the little girl again, looking at Hansen with her eyes wide. Hansen was shocked. Technically speaking, a pet could not decide its state for itself. Some intelligent pets could react automatically under emergencies, which was also quite rare and limited. Dismissing its own transformed state like the Holy Angel was simply beyond the ability of a pet. Hansen regarded the Holy Angel with his brows knitted and took her back. Fortunately, the beast's soul did not resist. This is so strange. I believe it's the golden growler. Other super creatures all disappeared after being killed. But the golden growler had edible meat. There must be some mysteries. Then you slowly walked into the cold liquid of the evolution pool. Initially, he did not want to become an evolver so soon. Once he finished evolution, he must leave First God's sanctuary in a short amount of time. Otherwise his body would be damaged permanently. However, Ningyu still chose to evolve at this point. He had so many doubts about Hansen that he felt it was worthwhile for him to evolve. Although he had summoned 13 evolvers with their sacred geno points maxed out who worked for Starry Group in different shelters, Ningyu still chose to evolve himself as well. Ningyu did not want to give Hansen any opportunity of survival. He only trusted himself with this mission. Although Starry Group was powerful, they did not want to mess with the special squad unless they had to, especially in the case that Hansen worked for King Xuan. Ningyu could not do anything to Hansen in the alliance, so he had to do it in God's sanctuary. Ningyu had so many doubts about Hansen. If Hansen had become an evolver when they first met, he had been staying in First God's sanctuary for too long, which should have already caused his body harm. No one would be so dumb. If he had not become an evolver, he did already have the strength beyond an unevolved person. Ningyu could only think of one possibility, which was that Hansen had already acquired super genes. Ningyu even suspected that the dagger of Hansen was a beast soul beyond sacred blood beast soul. Otherwise, how could it be so sharp? However, Ningyu did not dare to tell anyone about it. After reading about the news that Hansen had beaten the Golden Lion, Ningyu was even more certain that Hansen had acquired the power beyond sacred genes. Meanwhile, the beast soul of the golden growler was a mount. The supermount had not only incredible speed, but also adjustable size. At Hansen's command, the golden growler could be as large as a small hill. Its smallest was still the size of an elephant. The ride was so comfortable, like he was in an advanced private aircraft, even when the mount was running at its full speed. This is the ride that gets me, girls. Hansen felt excited. Maybe he could take Jianren for a ride on the golden growler sometime, and maybe even do something naughty with her. What would the term be if we do it on the lion's back? Hansen wondered. After playing around for a while, Hansen took the golden growler back and started to look for information on the Skynet using his comlink. After resting for 2 days, Hansen started to plan to transfer the beast souls of Dollar back to his own identity. Suzayo Kao, who had now become the team lead of Bolsai, was hunting a mutant creature with a group of people. Suddenly, someone dashed from a forest in front of him and cut the mutant creature in half. Dollar, you did not evolve very soon. So, I want to sell all my beast souls and need your help, Hansen said, and transferred all his beast souls and gear to Suzayo Kao. Hearing the voice telling him about Sacred Blood Beast Soul after Sacred Blood Beast Soul, Suzayo Kao was completely dumbstruck. When Hansen was about to leave, Suzayo Kao came to himself and exclaimed, Dollar, you're not afraid that I will keep the beast souls for myself? No, I'm not, said Hansen casually without turning back. Suzayo Kao quickly asked, you haven't given me a price yet. And where should I find you after they're sold? Do an auction. I only want S-class licenses of the Evolver level. I will go find you, Hansen said and disappeared in the mountains. At this point, Ningyu had also come to Steel Armor Shelter to find Hansen. When hearing the news, he also looked into the background of Suzayo Kao and reached the same conclusion as others. Young master, Suzayo Kao is going to do the auction tomorrow. Should we attend the auction? Liu Lin asked. The sacred blood beast souls of Dollar were quite famous and coveted by many. Ningyu was deep in his thoughts. He murmured, Dollar, Hansen, these two. Go get me the information you gathered on both of them. Young master, you're saying that Hansen is Dollar. Liu Lin was dazed. We will know the answer to that question very soon. Go prepare for the auction, Ningyu said quietly. Every once in a while, Steel Armor Gang would organize an auction. It was rather easy for Suzayo Kao to conduct another one with the trained personnel. On the day of the auction, almost everyone with some status in Steel Armor Shelter came. Ningyu and Liu Lin were covering their faces, observing in the crowd. Ningyu's gaze lingered on Hansen. It seemed that he was trying to tell something from Hansen's look. The 4 items that Hansen gave Suzayo Kao were Sacred Blood Black Beetle Armor, Bloody Slayer, Meowth, and Spinning Spear. Too many people knew that Hansen had made the last shot at the purple feathered dragon and claimed to not have gained the beast soul, which was why Hansen did not give the pair of wings to Suzayo Kao. He recognized me, Ningyu said quietly. Really? Liu Lin looked to Hansen, who was talking to King, incredulously. Hansen only glanced at them and did not even look twice. Since Ningyu was dressed like this, Liu Lin did not believe that Hansen could recognize Ningyu. In addition, Hansen did not look like he had seen Ningyu given how calm he was. Ningyu smiled and did not say anything. However, he took back the beast soul armor and revealed his face. Ningyu is probably here to kill me, Hansen thought after sitting down. However, he did not know what Ningyu was about to do. It was Steel Armor Shelter and Hansen was at home. Would Ningyu harm him in public? After the auction started, Hansen had not been able to close his mouth. His initial plan was to purchase all the beast souls himself. It was his money anyway. Suzayo Kao would get a small cut was all. He did not expect the prices would go so high though. Even the Black Beetle armor, which was of the lowest value, was already worth 5 S-class licenses of the Evolver level, and more. King, are you crazy? Although the Sacred Blood armor is precious, I'm sure it's not so precious. When King bid 8 S-class licenses of the Evolver level, Hansen thought he was out of his mind. Haha, brother, it is more than just Sacred Blood armor. This is Dollar's signature and only his name would be worth this much. Many people around King seemed to agree with him, especially Hai-Yun, who was standing S-class licenses like water. When he bid 10 licenses, everyone was silent. Hansen was dazed and thought, 10 S-class licenses of the Evolver level. It must be billions of dollars, while the Sacred Blood armor would probably only be worth 200 to 300 million. Hansen wanted to purchase his own beast souls back initially, but he was having second thoughts. S-class licenses were rare items that could hardly be purchased. Even if he had no use of them, he could always trade them for beast souls in Second God's Sanctuary. 10 licenses were a price that Hansen could not say no to. Having given up the idea of purchasing the Black Beetle armor, Hansen decided to let Hai-Yun keep it. The bidding for the Bloody Slayer was even more heated. Hai-Yun had raised the price to 15 licenses without even blinking. Hansen felt what had happened was beyond his understanding. He even doubted whether the S-Class licenses had been depreciating. Hai-Yun, are these beast souls really worth it? Hansen asked Hai-Yun. These are dollars, so they're different. Hai-Yun was overjoyed that he won the auction of the Bloody Slayer. Hai-Yun, you already have 2. Do not try to steal the last one from us, said King half seriously. Whoever gives the higher price would win it. If you pay more, you can have it, Hai-Yun said. During the auction of Meowth, Hansen felt torn. Although Meowth was no longer that useful to Hansen, it was his pet for the longest time. Hansen did not want to let Meowth go. Very soon, Meowth's price was raised to 15 licenses by Hai-Yun. Everyone became silent. Few people had that many S-Class licenses, which could not even be bought with money. 4 universal S-Class licenses. Hansen gritted his teeth and set a price. He resisted the temptation of 15 S-Class licenses, and would like to get Meowth back at all costs. Universal S-Class licenses. Hansen, you would pay this much. Are you also a fan? Both Yuan and King were shocked. Not really a fan. I am just into pets, Hansen smiled and said. 20 S-Class licenses, which should have a higher value. Hai-Yun still would not give up. Bet is hard to say. Suzaokiao hesitated. Universal licenses win. All of a sudden, a voice came from the gate of the venue. Everyone turned and saw someone wearing a mask. Dollar. Suzaokiao was surprised to see the person. The person looked exactly like Dollar when he was giving Suzaokiao the beast souls. Suzaokiao naturally recognized him. Dollar left after saying that. After all, it was just a doppelganger created by Hansen using Beetle Knight. The shorter it appeared in front of people, the better. Should we follow him? Liu Lin looked to Ningyu. Ningyu shook his head and said, no need. Our target is Hansen. Hansen saw someone following the Beetle Knight but paid no mind to it. The Beetle Knight was a sacred blood beast soul and was controlled by Hansen, so it was not difficult to get rid of the followers. And so sorry, Mr. Hai-Yun. Dollar had said himself that he preferred universal licenses. Suzaokiao looked around and said, 4 universal licenses from Hansen. Going once. Eventually, Hansen won the auction of Meowth and had his beloved back. Even the Sacred Blood Gear Spinning Spear was bought by Hai-Yun with 2 Sacred Blood licenses. Hansen did not expect this guy to be such a diehard fan of Dollar. Hansen had earned 27 S-Class licenses of the Evolver level, and all he paid was 2 Sacred Blood Beast Souls and 1 Sacred Blood Gear. The price was simply unimaginable. If I was not afraid of his family, I would never have let Hai-Yun take in the 2 Beast Souls of Dollar. I should have bought at least 1. King couldn't stop complaining after the auction was concluded. Hansen felt shocked. It turned out the price was not high enough in the rich kids' eyes. They gave up only because they did not want to cross Hai-Yun. When Hansen, King, and Yuan just walked out of the venue, a dozen people laid siege to them. Are you looking for trouble? King frowned and exclaimed. Then you walked out and said calmly, King, Yuan, this has nothing to do with you. It is personal between Hansen and me. Feel free to leave and I will apologize to you later. Then you, what did Hansen do? King and Yuan both frowned. Hansen snatched our creature, Ningyu said quietly. It is just a creature. Name the price and I will pay for him, King said immediately. It is not about money, but about getting things straight. I hope you can understand, Ningyu said with no emotions. Suzaokiao rushed out with his men from Steel Armor Gang. How dare you try to cross Hansen here? You must be blind. This is Steel Armor Shelter and you should go back to where you are. Very soon, the gang members had besieged Ningyu's men. Thank you so much. I will always remember how good you are to me. If you ever need me in the future, I'll be there. However, this matter is between Ningyu and me, and I will take care of it myself. Hansen quickly stopped the Steel Armor Gang. Although others cannot tell, Hansen had known Evolvers very well and could tell that the men Ningyu had brought were all Evolvers with their sacred Geno points maxed out. If they were really in a fight, although there were more people in the gang would still suffer a greater loss. King, Yuan, let me handle this myself, Hansen said to his 2 friends. Let's find another place to have a talk, said Hansen calmly. So brave, Ningyu said and commanded the Evolvers to force Hansen out of Steel Armor Shelter. Hansen, what do you plan to do? Ningyu looked at Hansen. I'll let you capture me. What do you think of this plan? Every time Starry Group finds a creature that is suspected to be something beyond sacred blood creatures, we would give it a number and record it. This is no. 107. You mean this giant flower? Hansen checked out the red flower, which looked like a plant in every way. Although it was huge in size, there was no way it could be a creature. Give me the dagger now, and you don't need to go inside, Mingyu said calmly. I do not want to give you my dagger, and I don't want to go inside either, Hansen replied. You can try to kill us all and run away, Mingyu said with a smile. Mingyu's words made the evolvers laugh. They all pointed their weapons at Hansen, indicating that they could take Hansen's life anytime. No one believed that Hansen could run away under the siege of 14 evolvers. In addition, Hansen's upper body was chained with the special Z-steel locks on his joints. Give me the dagger or go in the valley. Your pick, Mingyu said quietly. I choose to kill. Hansen shook his body and twisted in the weirdest angle. All the locks that were on his joints fell from his body. After removing the locks, Hansen quickly summoned the cursed wolf dagger and stabbed it at Mingyu. Mingyu did not look surprised. He summoned a slim sword and wielded it at Hansen. The 13 evolvers also summoned their own weapons and started to attack Hansen. If Hansen insisted to kill Mingyu with his dagger, he would be facing 13 weapons himself. The fitness level of Hansen was slightly weaker than the Sacred Blood evolvers. Although he could increase his strength and speed using Heresy Mantra and Overload, his original fitness was not improved. What a shame. I did not want to kill, but Hansen sighed and said he was speaking his mind. Before figuring out the relationship between the names and the hands, Hansen did not want to kill. However, he was left with no choice. Same as Mingyu, Hansen was the kind of person that would leave no mercy when he decided to kill. Retreat. Mingyu suddenly had a bad feeling. Although there was no way that Hansen could block so many weapons, for some reason, Mingyu felt danger. As the weapons were about to reach Hansen's body, it was too late for Hansen to run away, and for the evolvers to take back their weapons. Despite Mingyu's command, his men could no longer stop themselves. Boom. A giant monster in jade armor that looked like the cross between a scorpion and a bee suddenly appeared next to Hansen, knocking away all the weapons about to hit Hansen. The weapons used by the Sacred Blood evolvers were top-notch in First God's Sanctuary, but none of them could hurt that monster. Instead, the evolvers were knocked back. Crack. A pair of claws that looked like the sickles of the death crossed above Liu Lin's shoulders, sending his head into the air. Liu Lin's eyes were stared wide even after death, filled with terror. The fierce Super Golden Rock Worm King killed his way into the group. Its 4 wings buzzing, the Worm King danced with its 8 claws moving up and FD down. It was a true slaughter. Wearing super pet armor, the Super Golden Rock Worm King did not even look like something that belonged to First God's Sanctuary. Even the Sacred Blood evolvers could not hurt it. Instead, anywhere the Worm King went, limbs would fall, and blood would jet out. In front of absolute strength, even the Kuei sword skills were completely useless. As tough as Mingyu, he felt shocked when seeing the Sacred Blood evolvers that Starry Group took a lot of time and effort to cultivate slaughtered like this. What shook him even more was the existence of the Super Golden Rock Worm King. Could it be something beyond a Sacred Blood pet? Mingyu sighed and gave up, standing still and waiting for death to come. Mingyu, what's so special in this valley? Hansen asked, with his dagger on Mingyu's neck. Just kill me. Don't ask. Mingyu did not move a muscle, not even opening his eyes. It is not that easy to die either, Hansen said calmly. Suddenly, a beast soul was summoned and rushed to Mingyu. Mingyu's expression suddenly changed after he heard what Hansen said. He quickly opened his eyes and saw an ugly dark purple beast soul that looked like an alligator in his face. Boom. The beast soul did not pause and entered Mingyu's body. The giant creature sent itself into Hansen's chest with ease. Mingyu felt his whole body was stabbed and impaled, like someone was slicing his muscle. However, that feeling only lasted for a second. Shortly, the ugly beast soul came out of Mingyu's body and curled up next to Hansen, its spooky eyes fixed on Mingyu. Without hesitation, Mingyu turned his sword around and stabbed it at his own chest, trying to kill himself. Roar. The ugly beast soul opened its mouth. Suddenly, Mingyu lost the control of his body. He spread his hands and dropped the sword on the ground. Hansen gazed at Mingyu and met his eyes. Kill me. It is impossible that you get anything you want from me, Mingyu said calmly. Mingyu, do you recognize this? Hansen realized that ordinary questions could not shake Mingyu's will. He pondered, took out the red crystal pendant that looked like a cat or fox, and showed it to Mingyu. The moment Mingyu saw the pendant, his expression suddenly changed. From what the Aqua Reaper had read from Mingyu's mind, Hansen heard crazy exclamation, 9-life cat. How could it be the 9-life cat? It is impossible. I have investigated into your background. There is no way that you are the offspring of Instructor Han. Why is it impossible? Seeing that Mingyu's guard was down, Hansen asked immediately. Mingyu seemed to be dazed by Hansen's question. A long while later, he suddenly stammered, yes, you should be his offspring. Yes, you are. Otherwise, how could you be so strong? And how could you? Ningyu suddenly looked up at Hansen with a complicated look. If you showed me the 9-life cat earlier, we would never end up this way. Instructor Han is a benefactor of the Nings. If I knew earlier that you are his descendant, I would never dare to disrespect you. Hansen snorted and said, even if he had saved the Nings, it was a long time ago. If I don't have the strength to defend myself, I don't think you would mind killing me. Ningyu shook his head and said, we have a family instruction saying that if we meet any descendant of Instructor Han, we have to treat the person as a benefactor. The Nings would never dare to be disrespectful to you. Hansen was very surprised. He could sense what Ningyu was thinking with the Aqua Reaper. Hansen knew that Ningyu was telling the truth. You have looked into my background, so you should know about the acquisition of my family business by Starry Group. Why have you targeted us? Hansen stared at Ningyu and asked. Han Jingjai's deeds were ancient history, but he had to know about his father's death. Ningyu paused and said, you are not saying that my family murdered your father. Whether you believe it or not, I can tell you for sure that there is nothing of the sort. To be blunt, if it was my family that killed your father, my brother would have killed you as soon as he saw you the shelter. No one would let the son of his victim hang around. Hansen frowned slightly. In fact, what Ningyu said was what had always puzzled him. Son of Heaven had looked into his background a long time ago. If Starry Group had murdered his father, there was no way that Son of Heaven would let him live. After all, it was a piece of cake for Son of Heaven to kill him at the time. Ningyu continued, however, your father's accident had nothing to do with Starry Group. Even the manager who was in charge of the acquisition felt surprised about your father's accident. However, even without the accident, Starry Group had prepared a lot of financial means to acquire your family business. If Starry Group needed to kill someone for such a small acquisition, then it will have nothing to do all day but murder. Ningyu paused and said, I'm not saying this to beg for my life. It is simply something that we are not responsible for. Hansen frowned at Ningyu for a while, pointed to the vines and flower, and asked, what is that about? The giant flower and its vines are a strong creature. Initially, I wanted to force you fight it. If you manage to kill it, I could take the opportunity and gain its body. However, if you are killed, I would be able to get rid of a huge threat and learn more about the creature, said Ningyu. Hansen looked at the flower and vines again with interest and asked Ningyu with his eyes squinted, do you want to live? Do you dare to let me live? Asked Ningyu. This is number 107. Your family should know a lot of places like this. Give me the information and I will let you go, Hansen said. Okay. Ningyu did not even ask whether Hansen would let him go after receiving the information before telling Hansen all the locations. With the information accumulated by the Nings for generations, Hansen could easily locate the super creatures. You can go. Hansen commanded the Aqua Reaper to loosen the control on Ningyu. However, the Aqua Reaper was still inhabiting on Ningyu. Unless Ningyu's strength surpassed the Aqua Reaper, Hansen could still order the Aqua Reaper to control Ningyu to commit suicide from 1,000 miles away. Ningyu was dazed. He did not expect Hansen to let him go for real. Momentarily, Ningyu knew what Hansen was thinking but did not react. All he said was, the offspring of Instructor Han would only be a friend of the Nings and never an enemy. Ningyu turned to leave without explanation. Hansen turned his eyes to the giant flower and vines in the valley. He did not mean to take the risks himself. Hansen raised his hand and summoned the Holy Angel. He had always been wondering how strong Holy Angel was, and this was the perfect opportunity. At Hansen's command, the Holy Angel quickly transformed. Her armor, hair, and eyes all turned golden. Flapping her golden wings, she flew toward the giant flower. Her speed was not fast. The moment she reached the vines, all the vines in the valley started to shake. Hundreds of vines as thick as arms swept over at her at an incredible speed. Holy Angel suddenly moved. She flapped her wings hard, and the hundreds of vines suddenly looked slow in comparison as the gorgeous figure flashed across. Boom! As the Holy Angel brushed by the vines, they broke one by one. The giant flower quickly shrank and made spooky noises. The remaining vines started to shake and came at her again like the chains of death. However, that was completely useless. As the Holy Angel flew by, she waved her hand and the vines were cut off as if they were grass. Instantaneously, the Holy Angel had made her way to the flower with ease. Roar! The flower suddenly turned into the mouth of a beast with fangs bared. It quickly swallowed the Holy Angel that was approaching. Hansen regretted that he did not put the super pet armor on the Holy Angel. After all, this was very likely to be a super creature. If the Holy Angel who had just evolved was swallowed like this, it would be a gigantic loss for Hansen. In addition to being a super pet, such a pretty humanoid pet was extremely valuable itself. As Hansen was regretting, he suddenly saw the flower split from the middle. The gorgeous figure came out of the flower as regal as a queen. Her body was not even colored by the gushing blood. Super creature purgatory flower killed. No beast soul gained. Life essence available. Surprisingly, the voice sounded in Hansen's mind, making him feel emotional. Back in the days, he could not even break the eyes of the baby golden growler, while now even his pet could kill a super creature like killing an ant. Which made Hansen felt unreal. Amazing. Truly amazing. This girl is even more incredible than the golden rock worm king, which is also a super pet. Hansen did not come back to himself until the holy angel returned to him. He hugged her in excitement and was about to kiss her on her cheeks. Hansen did not have any lewd thoughts. It was just an unconscious move. However, although the holy angel let Hansen hug her, she raised her hand to Hansen's lips. So Hansen only kissed her cold armor. Hansen was dazed and looked at her gorgeous face, which was completely emotionless. Hansen frowned and took back the holy angel. Walking deeper into the valley, Hansen saw a basketball-sized green crystal, which was the life essence of the disappeared purgatory flower. Hansen took the crystal up and started to lick. The cool liquid turned into a coolness and filled Hansen's body as he drank. Hansen felt like his whole body was cleansed. Life essence of purgatory flower consumed. 1 super geno point gained. Shortly, Hansen heard the exciting voice, which drove him to lick the life essence harder. After consuming the entire piece of life essence, Hansen had acquired 8 more super geno points. At this point, he had 68 super geno points in total. Although Hansen had not been to a test center for a while, he estimated that his fitness index should be approaching 30, which was the same as a sacred blood evolver. If you come too late, you would not even be a worthy enemy, let alone friend. Hansen suddenly thought of what Son of Heaven said and smiled. After returning to the shelter, Hansen contacted Lin Beifeng as he had promised to sell Lin Beifeng the Phantom Ant armor, which he no longer needed. Lin Beifeng was overjoyed getting his hands on the Phantom Ant armor. It would still be 2 to 3 years before he maxed out on Sacred Blood Geno points, so he could use the armor for a long time. The practical reasons notwithstanding, Lin Beifeng was happy with how it looked anyways. Hansen did not take cash from Lin Beifeng, but asked Lin Beifeng to collect some sacred blood meat so that Hansen could fill up his sacred blood geno points, which he now had 85. Hansen had to prepare for the graduation tests and other procedures, so he would to stay in steel armor shelter for a while. That phoenix-like creature is the closest to steel armor shelter. I will kill it when I have time. If I put the super pet armor on the holy angel, she should be able to resist the flames. If I could have a beast soul from that creature, then it will be so good. Hansen thought to himself. When Hansen returned to Blackhawk, his roommates were all in the dormitory. It was rare that none of them was in God's sanctuary, so they went to the cafeteria to hang out. They had agreed beforehand that none of the guys could bring a +1. Hansen, where do you plan to go after graduation? Chijiking asked Hansen with one arm throwing around Hansen's shoulders. Tipsy. I will let the AI decide for me, Hansen said helplessly. Although Hansen wanted to serve on the warship where Jai Yanren was, even if he had to be just a soldier, he could not even find out which warship Jai Yanren was on. Hansen did not plan to have a career in the military, so it did not matter where he went if he could not see Jai Yanren, as long as he was not sent to the front to become cannon fodder. Even if he was sent to the front, he was still an elite who graduated from military school, so he would still be an officer instead of a common soldier. The roommates were talking and laughing, chatting about their dreams and ambitions. They didn't return to the dormitory until midnight. Hansen rarely had time to enjoy school life. In these days, he was focused on learning theoretical knowledge as well as the ancient language. Even in such an era when martial arts had been highly developed, none of the demigods dared to say they could tear apart the vacuum with their own body. If I could practice Dongchuan Sutra, no one in the Alliance would be my match. I don't even need to be as good as Dongchuan. If I am half as good as him, I would be invincible in the Alliance still. Even demigods meant nothing to me. Although Hansen had controlled his strength very well, he was still the absolute #1 in the test and became a major in the military. Each military school only had a few quotas for that kind of honor. However, based on Hansen's grades and his contribution to the school, his rank was well deserved. In 48 hours, the AI would make a decision about his assignment. Brother Han, I'm sorry. When it was time for Hansen to check where he was assigned, Wang Mingmeng came to him with her head bowed. Hansen felt she did not dare to look at him. Her voice was so low that Hansen could barely tell what she was saying. Brother Han, I'm sorry. I used my connections to assign you to the Warframe force where I'm about to go to without your consent. Brother, I'm so sorry. Wang Mingmeng was basically whispering. Her face was red, and she was avoiding eye contact. That's no big deal. The Warframe force that you will go to is definitely a good one. I probably should thank you for that, said Hansen, searching for his assignment information. However, the information shown on the display made Hansen pause. Sister, is the Warframe force you're going to join called Daphne? Hansen looked at the information AI displayed incredulously. Daphne, we're supposed to go to the Royal Warframe Force. Wang Mingmeng looked at the display without doubt and was also shocked by the information. It clearly said that Hansen was assigned to the cookhouse of Warship Daphne. So strange. Did they make a mistake? Wang Mingmeng became anxious and dialed a number with her comlink. Shortly, Wang Mingmeng had an odd look on her face. Who did this? Hansen asked calmly. The information display was very weird. It did not tell him about the exact location or even the number of the troops. All he knew was that he was going to serve at the cookhouse of a warship called Daphne. A major who graduated from a military school was assigned to a cookhouse. That was rare but possible. However, it was only possible for the several top warships in the Alliance, which did not include Daphne. Hansen would not believe it if no one had tempered his assignment. I don't know. The connections they used were not able to do anything. Your assignment was decided by the central AI. No one could change it without top authority. Wang Mingmeng suddenly stared her eyes wide and looked at him. Brother, did you ask anyone to do this? If it were me, I would not have asked you who it was. Hansen pondered and asked, is it possible for me to find out who did this? Wang Mingmeng shook her head, looking confused, and said, we do not have enough authority to access that information. However, only a few people would be able to do this. Is it possible that Starry Group was behind it? Hansen asked again. That is unlikely. Although the Nings had some influence in the military, they would not have such high authority, and we would be able to know it if it were them. Wang Mingmeng shook her head and said, then there is no need to think about it. I'm okay with any post. If someone wanted me to go there, I'll go have a look. Hansen had a relaxed attitude about it, since he would not be able to resist someone who could pull this anyway. Even the cookhouse needs a major. I wonder what kind of place Daphne is. The roommates of 304 had a last supper with Wang Mingmeng and her friends. Everyone was feeling a bit sentimental. In the end, they went to a holographic karaoke. Chi Jiking sang a song called The Brother Who Shared My Bunk, which made the girls wet their eyes. Brothers, our time had just begun. On the way to conquer the universe, we will meet again. When we see each other, I hope you will still remember my face, because everywhere else of my body would be decorated with medals. Hansen did not remember much other than that, although he was able to stay sober using jade skin. Hansen chose not to do that. Sometimes, he did not need to be sober in life, and this was one of those times. When Hansen left Blackhawk, he did not tell any of his friends, but walked out of the gate alone. Little birdie, here I come. Hansen set out on his way riding the Golden Growler, feeling quite excited. When there was no one around, Hansen commanded Golden Growler to turn into its largest form and run at full speed. Hansen could not even begin to describe how fast it was. Each step it took would bring Hansen 50 feet closer to his destination. Hansen felt the Golden Growler was some kind of ancient monster. With the Golden Growler, Hansen was confident that he could hunt a lot of super creatures within 3 months. Otherwise, it would take him a lot of time to just travel. Initially, Hansen was going to hunt the phoenix-like creature, but he had only been there once. Last time he was here, they went to the carbonized tree first and then found the snow mountain. However, when Hansen reached the area, he did not see any burned tree or other familiar signs. Then he had to look for the snow mountain according to his vague memory. After an entire day of searching, he did not spot any mountains. It looks like someone is over there. Hansen looked up and saw 4 mounts coming his way. On the back of the mounts were 2 men and 2 women. Judging from the mounts and their armor, they were not ordinary people. Whoever dares to come to the Devil Desert should be extraordinary anyways. The young man with thick eyebrows like caterpillars asked, friend, can you sell us some of your water? The other 2 women and 1 man stared at the water bags next to Hansen, licking their dried up lips. It was easy to find food with lots of creatures around in the desert. However, water was rare. The group of people had been lost in the Devil Desert for a month, and it was the first time they saw someone. The first thing they were asking was not the way out, but water. Without speaking, Hansen threw the bag of water at Jia Chengfeng and continued to eat. Thanks so much. Jia Chengfeng was overjoyed. Initially, he planned to pay a lot for the water. They were in the desert after all, where water meant life. Jia Chengfeng did not expect the guy to be so generous. Don't. Jia Chengfeng took the water back and was about to share it with the rest. The other guy, who was thin, stopped them. He then took out some test paper and dipped it into the water to see if it was poisoned. When he saw the result, the thin guy named Zhao Lingfeng let out a sigh of relief and let everyone drink. Friend, do you know how to get out of the desert? If you could take us out, I can pay you well. The payment is unnecessary. I need to hunt here, so I'm not going out. Follow that direction and you could get out of the desert in 3 to 4 days, Hansen said, pointing at a direction. Friend, if you are willing to lead the way, I can pay you a sacred blood beast soul, Xiao Lingfeng said. Seeing Hansen was unimpressed, both Xiao Lingfeng and Jia Chengfeng were surprised. The two girls also looked to Hansen, feeling incredulous. Lead the way for us and we can make sure you join the Iron Fist Martial Hall. Iron Fist Demigod will instruct you himself, said Xiao Lingfeng, pointing at Jia Chengfeng. Being able to be instructed by Jia Sidao himself was the dream of many among the celebrities and aristocrats. However, Hansen was not really interested in it. If it was before, Hansen would consider it. Jia Sidao was a demigod after all, and Iron Fist was one of the most well-known hyper-geno arts. However, since he got his hands on Dongshuan Sutra, Hansen had been studying the ancient language. Although he still did not understand everything, the parts that he understood made him overjoyed. Rather than wasting his time on learning Iron Fist, Hansen would rather spend his time on the ancient language. If he could understand Dongshuan Sutra, it would be very easy for him to become a demigod himself. However strong Iron Fist was, it could never make him tear the vacuum apart, let alone teleport to God's sanctuary using his own body. I thank you for that, but I really have my own thing to do. Friend, maybe you don't believe me. That is okay. I will teach you some skills in Iron Fist right now. How about you lead the way after learning? Jia Chengfeng thought about it and decided that Hansen must think they were lying, which was the only explanation for him being dismissive. Hansen was speechless, as he was really not interested in learning Iron Fist. However, since the group of people did not mean him harm, Hansen did not want to let them down. He asked Jia Chengfeng, on your way here, have you seen a snow mountain? I'm looking for that mountain, and if you could take me to find it, I could take you out after finishing my business. Hearing Hansen's words, one of the girls suddenly looked at him and asked, are you talking about a large mountain with only its top covered in snow? Yes, did you see it? Hansen was overjoyed. Look, it's right there. After traveling for a day, Ji Yan suddenly exclaimed, pointing at a mountain far away. Hansen had much better eyesight than Ji Yan. In fact, he had seen that mountain a long time ago. However, Hansen frowned because the mountain looked different from the one he remembered. We can't go any farther. It is the habitat of the evil demons in front of us. Jia Chengfeng was leading the way, stopped and asked everyone to pause. On the black mountain walls, there were many thickly dotted holes, which would make a person with trypophobia vomit. There were many red centipedes as thick as arms climbing out of the holes. The centipedes were about 6 feet long and looked extremely ugly, crawling around on the mountain walls. Hansen took a closer look at them. Although they looked like centipedes, they had a triangular head on each end of their body which was made of red bones. Connecting each bone was a pair of red hands with only 3 fingers. As they moved, the small hands were moving like the feet of centipedes, which was creepy to look at. These creatures are very petty. If you started to attack them, the whole group will come this way. You might be able to run away on your sacred blood mount, but we will die for sure. You're right. Since that's the case, you can leave first. I will join you after I kill them. Hansen pondered and said, you don't think you can really kill the king alone, do you? Ji Yan stared at Hansen with her eyes wide. Here's the water. Leave now. If I fail and die here, you will have enough water to go out. Hansen threw the majority of the water bags to the guys, only saving a few for himself. The group looked at Hansen in surprise. Hansen had given the majority of his water to them. If they took the water away, it would be difficult for Hansen to leave the desert with the remaining water after killing the evil demons, if he could kill the creatures at all. The 4 persons were all confused, not understanding what Hansen was thinking. They had no idea about the golden growler's real speed. If the mount went at its full speed, the remaining water was enough for Hansen to come and go several times. Hansen, think about it. These creatures are very fast in the desert. Even with your sacred blood mount, you might not be able to outrun them. Jia Chengfeng also said, if you don't leave now, I will start to shoot. Hansen aimed his arrow at the evil demons. Let's go. This guy is crazy. Xiao Lingfeng did not think Hansen was joking and quickly pulled his sister away. Jia Chengfeng also pulled Jia Yan away with him. The bony fish arrow flashed across the sky and reached one of the 2 heads of the giant evil demon king. The evil demon king quickly stood up like a snake, all the 3-fingered hands under its body facing the incoming arrow. A pair of hands grabbed the bony fish arrow, which continued to spin, making strident noises. However, momentarily, many hands covered the arrow and held it down. Hearing the sound made by the evil demon king, the group of 4 covered their ears and turned back to look at the mountain. The guy really did it. Jia Chengfeng muttered to himself, looking in the direction of the mountain. He has saved our lives. Should we really leave him alone? Jia Yan was hesitant. What can we do? You all know how strong the evil demons are. Hansen was more happy than surprised to see his arrow held by the evil demon king. An ordinary sacred blood creature would not be able to stop his arrow, which meant this evil demon king was very likely to be a super creature. Although he was in the wrong spot and failed to see the fire bird, another super creature would be more than welcome. He jumped on the back of the golden growler, which shook its body and roared, growing into a small hill and rushing at the group of evil demons. The giant body of the lion stamped on the evil demons, killing countless creatures as it ran. The group of evil demons were like a red pond in the eyes of the golden growler. Although the golden growler was a mount and did not have the ability to attack, it was so huge in size and so tough that even the walls of the shelter could not withstand it. Hearing the voice telling him creatures killed, Hansen occasionally gained a few beast souls. The seemingly impressive evil demons were even weaker than earthworms under the paws of the golden growler. Hansen looked at the golden rockworm king fighting the evil demon king. Circling around the demon king in the air, the golden rockworm king attacked it with 8 sharp claws. The evil demon king had extended the better half of its body out of the hole, squeaking with its head high. Moving its hands, the evil demon king was trying to capture the super pet. However, the golden rockworm king was fast and flexible. Although the evil demon king tried a few times, it failed to capture the super pet and lost a few hands to its sharp claws instead. Although the super pet hurt the evil demon king a couple of times, it did not have the absolute advantage. The two monsters kept fighting each other, squeaking at times. With the super pet armor, the evil demon king could only manage to scratch the armor and could not hurt the super pet. Boom! The gorgeous figure of the holy angel flashed on the mountain wall. She waved her hand and cut the evil demon king, which was held down by the golden rockworm king, in half. Half of the body of the evil demon king quickly fell from the mountain and made a huge pit in the sand. However, when it landed, the half of the body was still moving. With poisonous blood flowing, it threw itself once again at the golden rockworm king, and even the super pet armor was left with some marks. The holy angel used her hand like a sword. Momentarily, the half of the body was sliced into pieces and stopped moving. The triangular head was even cut into 4 pieces and exploded. This time, the evil demon king was completely quiet. Watching the evil demon king killed, Hansen looked to the hall on the mountain wall, upset. The other half of the evil demon king's body had disappeared, and Hansen did not hear the voice telling him the creature was killed. And the pieces of the body in the sand were corrupting quickly, which seemed abnormal. Without any hesitation, Hansen took the golden growler and the golden rockworm king back and entered the hole with Holy Angel. The group of people returned to the area of the mountain. What they saw made them feel so appalled that they could not shut their mouths. The bodies of evil demons were everywhere. The blood had formed a river and the bodies had become a hill. White sand was colored into burgundy by the poisonous blood. Half of the evil demon king's body was lying on the ground. Although corrupted, it still looked shocking. Hansen lighted a torch and looked around in the cave. He suddenly saw an alloy case in the corner. Someone had been here before. Hansen was surprised. The case looked like it was the advanced product from the Alliance. It was made of top-notch Z steel that was not only tough but also light in weight, making the case more portable than Z steel armor and weapons. Hansen checked the style of the case, which looked expensive but old. He did not think it was produced recently. Who could come to this place with a group of evil demons outside? Although modern technology was useless in God's sanctuary, Hansen did not dare to be reckless. He stepped back and asked the Holy Angel to open the case. The Holy Angel was fearless. She reached her hand in the gap and pulled the case open. Nothing weird happened. In the case, there were 3 bottles and a crystal card. Geno Solutions. Hansen looked at the 3 bottles and felt surprised. Although there were 3 bottles, only one of them was filled with purple Geno Solution. One of the bottles was empty, and one was broken. As Hansen was hesitating whether he should leave already, he felt the giant cave was shaking and then heard noises like thunder. The rumbles became louder and louder, sounding quite scary. Hansen pondered and took back the Holy Angel. He shapeshifted into the color shifter and leaned against the mountain wall, turning into a part of the rocks. No one could tell he was there. The rumbling continued for a while before it softened. Very soon, Hansen saw the evil demon king came from a wide hole. The huge body slithered out, which was still more than 60 feet long. The injury on the end of its body was still there but had already healed. Suddenly, he saw something else coming from the same hole where the evil demon king was. It was a creature that looked like a white rhinoceros with 3 pairs of legs, looking magnificent. On the back of the white rhinoceros sat a person. Hansen was shocked to see someone else riding a creature in this place, who was also getting along with the evil demon king. Everything seemed so odd. Hansen could tell that the white rhinoceros was definitely a creature instead of a beast soul pet. A creature had a murderous scent which the pet did not have. The woman sounded like she was not a human herself, but Hansen had never heard a creature would look exactly like a human and could talk. The evil demon king, which only had half its body left, followed the woman into the hole. Hansen had now understood that the demon was a bait the woman sent. Who is that woman? She is so strange. I have never heard that human could control a creature, which is also a super creature. How is that even possible? A long while after the evil demon king disappeared, he slowly moved his body toward that hole. Hansen carefully entered the hole, which was rather wide. Very soon, Hansen saw the woman in the white rhinoceros again. In addition to the woman in the white rhinoceros, many man-made tools were laid around, such as tents, walks and bowls. It seemed like the woman had spent quite some time in the cave. Hansen stopped breathing and integrated himself with the stone wall, observing the woman, someone who could command a super creature. Even Hansen felt surprised by his discovery. It was hard to believe that such a person even existed. There was a white mask made of bones on the woman's face, and a pair of purple horns were standing in her long hair like crescents. Shura royalty. How can this be? What shocked Hansen was the fact that Ashura had made her way into God's sanctuary, which was not supposed to happen. It was not to say that Shura did not have teleport devices. Even if they had none, it would be easy for them to grab one from human in the wars. However, Shura was rejected by God's sanctuary itself. Even with a teleport device, no Shura would choose to enter this space. Human had conducted an experiment to teleport Shura prisoners into God's sanctuary, who immediately got sick with the symptoms of flu. As their immune system went down, they all died in God's sanctuary within 3 days, adults and children alike, no matter how strong they were. However, this Shura royalty seemed to have lived in God's sanctuary for a long time already. Hansen was scared by the idea that Shura might be able to survive in God's sanctuary. Shura's physique was much better than human in the first place. If they were able to survive in God's sanctuary and gain Geno points, the consequences would be dire. An ordinary Shura adult had the same physique as a human evolver, and a strong Shura fighter would be the same as a human surpasser. With such physique, it would be easy for Shura to kill all creatures and leave none for human. Among black, white, golden, and purple horns were the Shura royalties who had the strongest physique. Once older than 10, they could be over 100 in fitness index. Although Hansen did not know how old this Shura woman was, she must be more than 10 years old, which meant she definitely had a fitness index beyond 100. Once Shura like her entered in first God's sanctuary and started a fight with human, Hansen could imagine what would happen. Even Hansen, who only had a fitness index below 30, could already become invincible in first God's sanctuary. Hansen was covered in cold sweat on the thought as unspeakable fear filled his heart. It was beyond his personal interests. If Shura were able to survive in first God's sanctuary, it would be the nightmare for the entire mankind. As Hansen was trying to leave, to his surprise, the Shura girl suddenly let out a scream. He turned to look at her and saw her kneeling on the floor, moaning in pain. Her body kept shaking as she huddled up. The evil demon and the white rhinoceros seemed to be so scared that they each ran away into a stone channel like rabbits. Bang! Hansen heard a loud noise. The Shura girl, who was holding her head and moaning in pain, suddenly started to bang her head against the floor, smashing the rock into pieces. Hansen watched the girl hitting her head against the rock repeatedly, and was shocked. It is Shura girl, a lunatic. Watching the Shura girl banging her head on the floor, Hansen could not help feeling an urge to kill her. She looked like she was having a recurrence of some disease. Maybe he could take the opportunity to kill her. Boom! With another hard bang, a large pit was formed as all the rocks within a range of 12 feet were crushed. After that, the Shura girl did not move anymore, but fell in the pit and fainted. The evil demon and the white rhinoceros then came out of the stone channels. The evil demon approached the unconscious Shura girl, hesitated, and suddenly opened its mouth and bit at her. Hansen was dumbfounded. He did not know what was going on. A moment ago, the evil demon was following the Shura girl like a puppy dog, while all of a sudden, it was about to eat her. Maybe this creature was extremely intelligent and knew how strong she was, so it pretended to be enslaved by her until it could find an opportunity to eat her alive. The evil demon caught half of the Shura girl's body, so her hair was falling in the air. Hansen saw clearly that the pair of purple horns were gone. Hansen could not believe it and rubbed his eyes. As he looked at her one more time, he still did not see the purple horns that represented Shura royalty. What has happened? Did I make a mistake earlier? Hansen was filled with doubts, but the evil demon was already ready to swallow the girl like a snake. Seeing that the evil demon king was about to eat the girl, Hansen gritted his teeth and summoned the holy angel and the cursed wolf dagger, dashing at the evil demon king. The evil demon king knew how strong the holy angel was and dodged her attack immediately. However, Hansen was already in its face. The white rhinoceros roared and quickly threw itself at Hansen, running with its 6 hooves. As Hansen pointed at the rhinoceros, the golden rock worm king flew at it. Taking this opportunity, Hansen stepped aside and touched the head of the fainted girl, trying to make sure whether she was Shura. Hansen felt nothing. The pair of purple horns simply disappeared without leaving any trace. Hansen felt her head again and again. He could not believe what had happened. He was sure that he did see a pair of purple horns shaped like crescents. However, they were gone just like that. Shura's horns could not be retracted. Otherwise, there would be a million for Shura spies among human. The horns of Shura were connected to their brain. Even if they cut the horns off, there would still be scars where the horns used to be. He wanted to leave the girl alone, but there was no safe space in the cave given 4 monsters were fighting inside. Hansen had to hold her in his arms for the moment. The evil demon was almost beaten by Holy Angel. Lots of its hands were cut off. Although they were both super creatures, the Holy Angel was obviously the top of the top, even comparable to the adult Golden Growler. The evil demon, however, was more or less on the same level as the Aqua Reaper. In addition, the evil demon was hurt in the first place, so it was no match of the Holy Angel. On the other side, the Golden Rock Worm King was against the White Rhinoceros. To Hansen's surprise, the Rock Worm King was at a disadvantage. In terms of both speed and fitness, the Rhinoceros was stronger. Hansen put the super pad armor on the Rock Worm and enhanced its defense. This way, it could compete against the White Rhinoceros. Hansen rushed over to fight the evil demon with the cursed wolf dagger in his hand and his wings flapping. He decided to take the weakest link out first and leave the tough ones for later. Then, the giant body of the evil demon suddenly became limp. It fell to the bottom, making the entire space shake. Super creature evil demon killed. No beast soul gained. Life essence available. Meat inedible. Holding the girl under one arm and the life essence of the evil demon in the other, Hansen dashed to the tent which was already damaged by fallen stones. He found a quilt in the tent, took it out, and placed the girl on it. He then ran toward the life essence covered under the piece of cloth. Fortune, such a fortune. Hansen almost jumped up, unable to believe his own eyes. Hansen bent over and licked at the yellow crystal, trying to make sure that it was life essence. As the yellow liquid was swallowed by Hansen, he suddenly heard the voice. Life essence of super creature Earth Dragon Beast consumed. Hansen was overjoyed. He was finally relaxed as these were truly life essence. Mine, they're all mine. Hansen summoned Meowth in its transformed state, put a bag around neck and started to fill it with life essence. The golden growler was too big in size, so it would be inconvenient for it to leave the cave. Hansen had to put the burden on Meowth. 3 life essence crystals, in addition to the ones from the evil demon and the white rhinoceros which was about to be killed. Hansen was almost certain that he would be able to gain 5 crystals of life essence at once. These 5 crystals might even make him max out on super Geno points. Hansen paused as he suddenly felt something was wrong when moving the crystals into the bag. Hansen turned around and was suddenly dumbstruck. The girl had already sat up. She tilted her head and regarded Hansen with her wide eyes blinking. Hansen was so happy that he had forgotten about the girl. Seeing she had woken up, Hansen suddenly remembered that she was possibly a Shura royalty, and was then covered in cold sweat. Hello. Hansen forced a smile and said hi to the girl, thinking, I should not have such bad luck. She does not look like a Shura royalty either. The girl did not respond, still staring at Hansen with her eyes wide as if she had never seen human before. Hansen's heart sank. He wondered what she was thinking. This thing, you have no use of it, so I will take it away, Hansen said to the girl, holding the blue life essence high. This time, to Hansen's joy, the girl unexpectedly nodded. He put the life essence away and said, you were unconscious just now. That creature tried to eat you and I saved you. The girl was so strange that Hansen did not know where she came from. It would not hurt if he started to sweet talk. As the saying goes, no one would slap a smiling face. The girl blinked and said nothing, watching Hansen transferring the life essence to his bag. Roar. The white rhinoceros suddenly screamed. Hansen saw the head of the white rhinoceros sent into the air by the holy angel. The golden rock worm king was still clinging to the body of the white rhinoceros, its tail digging into the rhino's meat and its claws holding the rhino's stomach. Super creature white jade six-legged rhinoceros killed. No beast soul gained. Life essence available. Meat inedible. Hansen heard the voice again. The next moment, Hansen became pale because the girl suddenly moved. She was so incredibly fast that even with Hansen's eyesight, he almost lost track of her moves. As the girl stepped forward, she almost appeared in front of the golden rock worm king instantaneously, throwing a punch at the pet. She was so swift that the golden rock worm king had no time to dodge, and Hansen did not even manage to take back his pet in time. Boom! The tender fist of the girl hit the golden rock worm king hard. The hole was left on both the super pet armor and the worm king. Hansen took the golden rock worm king, holy angel, and meowed back in his mind and ran away immediately. Hansen just started running when the girl stood in front of him in the blink of an eye, her face almost hitting his. As Hansen stepped back, the girl did not attack him, but stared at him with her big eyes. There was no hostility on her face. Hansen suddenly had a thought and did not summon the Worm King and Holy Angel. If this girl was trying to attack him, she should have done that a long time ago. However, she did not attack Hansen, who was the closest to her, but hit Golden Rock Worm King. That probably meant she had no intention to hit Hansen. Sister, my name is Hansen. How shall I call you? Hansen asked with a forced smile, as he felt awkward but did not know what to say. Zero. Hansen did not have much hope, but to his surprise, the girl answered him. Zero, the girl said and squatted down, writing zero on the floor with her finger, which turned out to be Standard Alliance language. Seeing the word written by the girl, Hansen felt more relaxed. Zero, this is your first name, right? What is your last name? Hansen asked. Just Zero, the girl said without explaining further. She was still staring at Hansen as if there was something on his face. Hansen thought Zero did not seem to be too intelligent. He licked his lips and said with a fake smile, "We are friends, not enemies, right?" "Friends, not enemies," Zero nodded and said. Hansen was overjoyed, spread his hands and said, "We are good friends, so we don't fight, right?" "Good friends, no fight." Zero nodded again, agreeing with Hansen. Hansen was even more pleased as he felt Zero was indeed a bit dumb, like a 3-year-old. Did she hurt her brain when she bangs her head on the floor? Hansen was secretly happy. He walked 2 steps and pointed at the life essence on the floor, asking, "Tell me, can I take these?" This time, Zero did not speak but nodded. Obviously, she had agreed. Hansen was on top of the world. Originally, he thought there would be no gain this time as both Golden Rock Worm King and Super Pet armor were severely damaged, and it was still questionable whether he could survive. Life essence was out of the question. However, things suddenly took a turn. He still had a chance to take away all the crystals of life essence, which was a great surprise to him. Hansen waved at Zero, walking out with Meowth. Although Zero meant him no harm, Hansen did not know where she came from, and she was troubled mentally. Who knows if she would become mad again? Hansen decided to be as far away from her as possible. However, when Hansen arrived at the channel where he came from, he found Zero right behind him. It seemed that she was following him silently. In his room at Steel Armor Shelter, Hansen felt a strong headache as he looked at Zero, who was sitting opposite him. Back to the day when they were in the cave, Zero insisted on following him in silence. She would walk as Hansen did and stop when he stopped. Hansen even tried to run away on the back of the Golden Growler during the middle of the night while she was sleeping. However, after riding the Golden Growler non-stop for more than half a day, as he started to cook lunch, Zero was already waiting next to his pot with her eyes wide. She would go wherever Hansen went like a tag-along. She did not seem to be completely done. At least when Hansen went to the bathroom, Zero would not follow him. In the end, Hansen had to take her back to his room in Steel Armor Shelter and watch her with a headache. He had found out nothing about her. As they were eating, Hansen asked Zero, who was filling her mouth with food, "So, why did you choose to follow me?" Surprisingly, Zero put down the bowl in her hand and stood up. Then Hansen saw her unbutton her blouse and pull it down. "Don't. I'm not that kind of person. You think you can tempt me with your beauty. I'm telling you there is no way you could achieve that. I am a..." Hansen covered his eyes with both hands and said, while peeking through his fingers. Zero had already pulled her blouse down. She was wearing nothing underneath. However, she had already turned her back to Hansen. Hansen suddenly widened his eyes. On the gorgeous and flawless back of Zero, Hansen saw a tattoo, a red tattoo. The tattoo was the shape of a beast which looked like a cat or fox. Zero pulled her blouse back to cover her nude body up, walked to Hansen, and reached her hand toward Hansen's chest. "What are you doing?" Hansen was startled, trying to jump back. However, Zero was too fast. She immediately reached into Hansen's collar and pulled the 9-life cat pendant Hansen was wearing. She then released it and stepped back, pointing at the pendant. "You're saying you followed me because of this pendant? What do you have to do with it?" Hansen looked at Zero incredulously. Zero did not talk to Hansen again but sat back to eat, as if he had heard nothing. Hansen strongly suspected that Zero was not dumb at all. Hansen had never managed to get any information that she did not want to share. What's the relationship between her and Han Jingjai? Hansen looked at the 9-life cat dependent with complex emotions. However, Hansen felt like there was no way for Zero to be connected to Han Jingjai. Han Jingjai was someone who lived centuries ago, while Zero was so young. The connection was simply impossible. "I'm leaving now. You can stay here or teleport back yourself." Hansen used the teleport device in his room and teleported back to the teleport station. For several days, Hansen wandered around in Devil Desert, but found no sacred blood creature at all. After he finished eating the life essence, he eventually had 99 super geno points, 1 point from maxing out. What bad luck. However, Zero was following him quietly like a shadow. Hansen saw a mountain from afar which looked like a volcano covered with white snow on top. It was exactly the mountain where he had seen the phoenix-like creature. Hansen became overjoyed. As long as he killed the creature, he would be able to gain the last super geno point that he was missing and evolve. At that time, he could get rid of the horrendous time bomb, Zero. The Golden Rock Worm King and Super Pet armor were almost destroyed by Zero. Currently, they were restoring in Hansen's mind and could not be used in a short amount of time. Hansen quickly summoned the Holy Angel and sent her to probe on the mountain. Hansen still had a lot of reservations about the Firebird and did not want to take the risks himself. The Holy Angel flapped her wings and went to the top of that mountain. She suddenly heard a shrill bird song from the mountaintop as she approached. The Firebird tweeted and came after the Holy Angel. The girl and the bird started to fight in the air. The Holy Angel kept dodging the attacks from the Firebird, unwilling to catch on the flames. On the other hand, the Firebird was also being very cautious, unwilling to show any weakness in front of the Holy Angel. Although the fight seemed to be rather fierce, the two did not exchange too many movements. Hansen saw that even the Holy Angel was afraid of the flames of the Firebird and did not dare to take the risks himself. Hansen shot a glance at Zero, who was standing next to him, and felt quite upset. After seeing Zero, Hansen's eyes suddenly lit up. He thought, "I wonder if you would help me if I ask her to kill the Firebird. She is not interested in the life essence anyway, so I don't need to worry about her keeping the life essence for herself." Zero, can you do me a favor?" Hansen cleared his throat and asked. Zero did not even look at Hansen. She suddenly jumped up and reached the mountain in just a few moves. With a long jump, she reached out a hand and grabbed at the Firebird that was fighting the Holy Angel. After Zero threw herself at the Firebird like a cannonball, she went through the burning body of the Firebird and appeared on the other side, landing heavily on the mountain's feet and even broke a part of the mountain. In Zero's hand, there was a red and golden spirit wiggling like flames. The Firebird quickly issued a scream, as its body made up of flames simply exploded and turned into fireworks. Zero jumped back to Hansen and threw the spirit at him without saying anything. She then stood next to Hansen like she always did. Thank you so much." Hansen flushed. He never treated Zero well, while Zero finished what he was trying to accomplish for a long time, which embarrassed him a bit. Hansen quickly summoned the Curse Wolf daggers and slashed it at the spirit. Super Creature Desert Bird killed. Beast Soul of Desert Bird gained. Life Essence available. Meat inedible. He caught a red and gold crystal the size of a bullet in his hand and threw it in his mouth without hesitation. Although it was kind of a waste, he had no use of the life essence even if he saved it for later. There was no way he could sell it to someone else either. Therefore, Hansen simply ate the whole thing. Life essence of Desert Bird consumed. 1 super geno point gained. Super geno points maxed out. Hansen realized that he had finally maxed out on his super geno points, even earlier than he maxed out on sacred geno points. Hansen looked to his mind with joy and saw his newly gained super beast soul. Type of beast soul of super creature Desert Bird, aura. Hansen almost laughed out loud. It was a beast soul aura, which was very rare. Hansen had felt the effect of Flame Lieutenant was somewhat lacking. Having gained a super beast soul aura, he had something to replace it with. In the central office of the special squad, Zhang Zhenhong was handling some urgent files when he heard a knock on the door. "Jiang Shen, if it is not important, don't disturb me today," Zhang Zhenhong said after seeing it was his assistant Jiang Shen. "Director, the head of a special squad submitted a beast soul trade application," Jiang Sheng said with a complex expression. "Don't bother me with this kind of thing. Ask him to do it on the internal platform by the rules. Do I need to teach you that? Zhang Zhenhong was quite upset that Jiang Sheng would bother him with such trivial matter and said harshly. The head of that special squad wanted to trade for a quota of protection for his family member. Jiang Sheng knew Zhang Zhenhong's temper quite well and understood he was under a lot of pressure, so Jiang Sheng was not upset. Director, that person did not want protection at the moment, but a few years later. Nonsense. Why would he apply for something coming into effect in a few years? Is he trying to add to our workload? Zhang Zhenhong thumped the desk in madness. Director, I think you should probably first look at the list of beast souls he submitted. Jiang Sheng placed the document in front of Zhang Zhenhong. What is there to look at? Initially, Zhang Zhenhong was quite annoyed. However, after glancing at the list, he swallowed his words back and widened his eyes. Currently, Hansen had 7 super beast souls in total. They were Water Reaper, Curse Wolf, Golden Growler, Golden Rockworm King, Holy Angel, and Desert Bird. The sacred blood beast souls would not be that useful in Second God's Sanctuary, so Hansen traded most of them away, only keeping Beetle Knight, Fairy Queen, and Meowth. Initially, Hansen also wanted to keep Purple Feathered Dragon and Color Shifter. However, after looking through the information about Second God's Sanctuary, Hansen found that there were a lot of flying creatures in Second God's Sanctuary, many of which had much higher speed than the wings he had currently. Therefore, the sacred blood wings were not that valuable anymore. In addition, he had 2 super pets which could both fly. He could totally do without the beast soul wings. Color Shifter was not that useful in Second God's Sanctuary either. If he was to hide himself, changing the color alone was no longer enough in Second God's Sanctuary, where there were many creatures that had very strong sense of smell and perception. They could probably sense his body temperature. In the end, Hansen gave up the Color Shifter as well. Keeping Meowth was simply for sentimental reasons. He had really considered Meowth as his own pet. Hansen walked out of his room and entered the Evolution Palace and Steel Armor Shelter. In the Evolution Palace that looked like an ancient temple, a mysterious statue of Beast Head was guarding the pool from each corner, spouting liquid that was almost transparent from their mouths. Without hesitation, Hansen took off all of his clothes and walked into the pool, immersing his body in the lukewarm liquid in the evolution pool. In the liquid, Hansen felt he had become an embryo. He felt like an unborn baby, all of his body cells developing joyfully, bringing him to a rebirth. The feeling was hard to describe. There was no heat or coldness, and no stimulations. The growth was so natural that it felt a part of his own growth. It felt like puberty again, but it was not a real puberty. The growth was inside out. In the liquid, he did not feel suffocated at all, but extremely comfortable. Hansen felt like he was a sacred soul that had reborn with all his sins purified. The feeling was so wonderful that Hansen almost moaned out loud. No wonder so many people are pursuing evolution of the body. The feeling of evolution is magnificent. It is almost like a rebirth, making the old body shine with youth again. Hansen thought. However, he knew it was not finished yet. He had to wait until he heard the voice, which would tell him this evolution was successful. In addition, Hansen wanted to enjoy this fantastic feeling for a while longer. It was as good as having sex with the woman he loved. But it was a completely different feeling. It was more like a person who had been sick for a long time was suddenly cured. All the pains and sickness went away in a moment. The cleanse was so thorough that one might even cry. Hansen did not cry, but he totally enjoyed it. Evolution successful. Status of Evolver gained. 100 years added to lifespan. Super Body King Spirit gained. Hansen was dumbstruck by the 2 words King Spirit. There were many evolvers among humans. In fact, the majority of humans were evolvers. Unevolved persons were usually between 16 and 30 years old, while the majority of humans between 20 to 300 years old were evolvers. Most people would stay in this status their whole life, and only a few could become surpasser. It was not because average evolvers could not gain 100 Geno points, but because Third God's Sanctuary was too dangerous. After returning to his room, Hansen held the black crystal in his hand. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and put the black crystal into his mouth. He swallowed the black crystal as if he had swallowed an ordinary stone. There was no heat or coolness or swelling. It was almost like the black crystal had no use at all. Hansen did not dare to be careless. There were many radioactive minerals in the universe that might affect the functions of one's body in the long run. One might get severely sick or even die. Hansen took a deep breath and looked around in the room, making sure that he had nothing left except for Zero. Hansen smiled to Zero, who was regarding him with wide eyes, and teleported out of Steel Armor Shelter. Zero followed Hansen out, but Hansen paid her no mind. He ran to the self-service scanner at the teleport station, swiped the card for a scan, and then scanned his own body. After seeing the holographic image in the scanner, Hansen was dazed. He scanned a couple times more and the result was the same. There was no black crystal in his body. Hansen looked to his mind and saw the cursed wolf, golden growler, holy angel, and other super beast souls were sitting in a circle, staring at one thing greedily with fierce looks. The elf and beetle knight were standing afar, clearly coveting the item as well. However, they were afraid of the 7 super beast souls and did not dare to come any closer. Hansen's eyes fell on the item in the center of the super beast souls and became overjoyed. The black crystal which he failed to find in his own body had somehow entered his mind and hovering there. What the beast souls were eyeing was exactly the black crystal. How did this end up in my mind? Can I still take it out? Hansen focused his mind on the black crystal, but it did not move at all. Obviously, it was not like a beast soul which would respond to Hansen's thought. Hansen looked around and found that he had sold most of his beast souls, except for the super beast souls, Meowth, and Beetle Knight, as well as a few primitive beast souls that he did not manage to sell. Those primitive beast souls were shivering far away from the crystal, unable to bear the horrendous aura of the super beast souls. If they could, they probably would have wet themselves already. As the copper beast was walking toward the black crystal in fear, a figure suddenly moved on its own, grabbing the black crystal before the primitive beast. It was the holy angel. Hansen frowned. Ever since the holy angel swallowed the meat of the golden growler, she became somewhat different. Sometimes she would act voluntarily, although it was still within certain boundaries. Hansen initially wanted to order the holy angel to let go of the black crystal but hesitated as the holy angel looked at him expectantly with puppy eyes, yearning for the black crystal. Thinking of the fact that the holy angel could further evolve, Hansen decided to let her have it. Since she wanted it so much, it should not be harmful to her. With Hansen's order, Holy Angel became overjoyed and swallowed the black crystal in her hand. After the holy angel swallowed the black crystal, she suddenly huddled up, her body glistening with holy aura as if she were in heaven. The aura quickly turned into a gigantic cocoon of light, hugging the holy angel, and then everything became calm again. The cocoon of light was hovering in Hansen's mind, throbbing with a special rhythm of life. All the other beast souls became disappointed and scattered. The most disappointed among them was the copper-toothed beast. Hansen looked at the cocoon of light, which did not seem to be changing anymore. Hansen decided not to pay attention to his mind for a while. I wonder what the holy angel would become after another evolution. Hansen felt expectant and excited. After going out of the scanning device, Hansen looked at Zero who was waiting for him outside and thought, "This time I enter God's sanctuary again, I will appear in second God's sanctuary, so there would be no way for you to follow me anymore." In order to get rid of Zero, Hansen directly walked toward the teleport device, took a deep breath, and chose to teleport. This was his first time to enter second God's sanctuary, so the location he would be teleported to was random. Hansen was praying that he would be sent to somewhere ruled by humans, which would be much more conducive to his cultivation. If unfortunately, he was sent to a place where there were all creatures with no human, or where there was a large spirit shelter, it would be difficult for him to even survive. After a temporary lightheadedness, Hansen was no longer in the teleport device. What he saw was a huge ice cave. The ice around him was as tough as glass, probably having been frozen for centuries. Ice cones and columns were hanging from the ceiling of the ice cave. There was nothing but coldness, except for the teleport device under Hansen's feet. What is this damn place? Hansen looked around and only saw one hole leading to the outside. Hansen still had hope and wanted to crawl out of the hole to have a look. Before Hansen acted, he suddenly saw a blur in the teleport device, and someone else appeared there. No, it is impossible that she's an evolver. How can she end up here? Even if she was an evolver, it is highly unlikely for her to end up at the same spot as me. The chance is so slim and there must be something wrong. Hansen was lost, gazing at Zero. Hansen believed there were only two possibilities. One was that Zero was abnormal. The other was that his 9-life cat pendant was problematic. On the top of the largest mountain, he could see a white fairytale-like castle vaguely through the flying snowflakes. Hansen's face suddenly became grim. Spirit shelter. Hansen suddenly had an idea, which was not good news to him. Since Hansen had not spotted a human building but saw a spirit shelter, it was unlikely for him to meet any fellow man. Judging from the looks of the castle, it was probably owned by advanced spirits. If the spirits were too strong and had a large troop of creatures, Hansen believed he would suffer in his early development. "Why are you standing there?" A hasty but low voice sounded from Hansen's back. Hansen turned to look and saw a man with his full body covered in Arctic suit waving at them from the depths of the hole. Hansen suddenly felt a bit pleased to finally see a human. He took Zero to walk over to the guy. When he was ready to speak, the guy suddenly pulled them inside the ice channel. Let's go. Let's talk inside so that we don't alarm the ice-armored beasts. They have sensitive ears and could hear a voice 1,000 feet away in a snowstorm. My name is Zuyu, and I came here more than a year ago, so I have more experience than you. Here's a piece of advice: do not wander around. This damn place is hell. Whoever sent here are just down in luck. This place faces the ocean in 3 directions. Only the direction of the spirit shelter leads to land. Besides, we don't even know where we are. Even if we bypass the spirit shelter, it would be hard for us to locate a human shelter. We would be more than likely to die on the way. Wait here for a couple of days. When more people arrive, we would be able to go farther to hunt. People here are nice, so as long as you do your part, the meat would be shared to you. So stay and gain some Geno points. Know this place better, and then consider hunting on your own. Thank you so much for the instructions, friend. Hansen thanked Zuyu for being so straightforward. Call me Zuyu. Zuyu smiled and said. After going back to the ice cave, Hansen chatted some more with Zuyu and got the basic idea about the place. Then he teleported back to the Alliance together with Zero. Hansen decided to get certified as a sacred blood aristocrat. In addition to all the benefits he could get, he would be able to let his sister continue her study at the posh school with confidence. Before taking Zero home, Hansen took her to the testing hall. He planned to do a simple strength test himself and ask Zero to take the test to determine how strong she was. It was easy to do a strength test. If one punched at the device as hard as one could for 3 to 5 times, the device would come up with an accurate average of one's strength score. Hansen picked an empty room, pointed at the device and said to Zero, hit it with all you got. Zero followed instructions as always, walked to the device, raised her tender fist, and hit the target hard. Hansen quickly looked to the numbers, 97.0472, which was lower than what Hansen had thought. He thought Zero's fitness should be over 100, while it was less than 100. Hansen asked Zero to give it a few more shots, and the number was lower than the first one. The second shot showed 96.8964, and the rest were between the 2 numbers. Hansen walked to the device himself and hit it hard. When he looked at the number, it kept go up and stayed 70.0006, which made Hansen quite pleased. This was his maximum estimate. He then made a few more punches and found that there was almost no variation between the numbers, with the largest difference being 0.0002. Hansen hesitated and summoned the Fairy Queen to shapeshift. Then he used Heresy Mantra and Overload to hit the target with all he got. Boom. With a huge sound, the number kept flipping up and ended at 81.6735, which made Hansen overjoyed. Hansen's number was not that far from Zero's. Although there was still a difference of a dozen points, Hansen had already got the ability to fight her. Even if she suddenly went mad, Hansen still could handle it to some extent. Furthermore, he had become an evolver, which meant not only his fitness was enhanced greatly, his potentials were also increased. He took Zero back to his home, which was not the old house of his family, but a 3-bedroom penthouse Hansen bought himself. Originally, he planned to use it with his girlfriend, but it turned out to be vacant. A few days back, Hansen regretted that he had bought this penthouse. Currently, it became handy to accommodate Zero. Can you stay here alone? Call me with comlink if you need anything. Hansen taught her how to use the comlink and regarded her, fearing that she might insist on following him. He was about to report to Daphne, and she could not appear in the military. Okay, Zero replied and nodded. Does it count as keeping a mistress? Hansen touched his chin and thought to himself. Considering that Zero looked only about 15 years old, not even an adult yet, Hansen felt his thought was too evil. He shook his head and dismissed the thought. The next morning, Hansen left to get certified as a sacred blood aristocrat, which was the last important matter he needed to tend to before serving. It was very crowded in the certification bureau. All the service windows had long lines in front of them. But the majority of the people were there for the certification as mutant evolvers and primitive evolvers. Although the mutant evolvers also had the status of aristocrat, their status was significantly lower than sacred blood aristocrats. Men were doing better and better in First God's Sanctuary, and more people were able to kill a super creature. However, those who could max out on sacred Geno points were still quite limited. It so happened that the young man in the line next to them had also come to the window. He walked up, raised his voice and said to the staff, "I am here to be certified as a mutant evolver." After that, the young man glanced at Hansen provocatively, as if he were saying, "I am a mutant evolver and what are you?" Hansen did not even bother to say anything. He simply walked to the window, handed in his identification card and whispered to the staff, "Would you please handle my request to be certified as a sacred blood evolver?" Although Hansen's voice was low, the young man quickly changed his expression. People around them also looked to Hansen in surprise. The staff member who had been working long hours also raised his eyes and checked Hansen out. A sacred blood evolver was still quite rare at this point. On a small planet such as Raka, 3 to 5 sacred blood evolvers per year would be considered a significant number already. 20 years old, graduate of Blackhawk Military Academy, and a major. As he said that, the young man and others were in doubt looked at Hansen in a much different way. Blackhawk Military Academy was a top school in the eyes of ordinary people. A graduate of Blackhawk was undoubtedly the elite among the elite. The face of the young man turned purple. He wished he could hide in a hole somewhere. Everyone else looked at Hansen with admiration, and girls and women even started to wink at Hansen. This is the true elite of the Alliance, a sacred blood aristocrat of 20 years old. So handsome. I wonder if he has a girlfriend. I wish to marry him. I don't mind if I only have one night with him. I wonder how much it would cost to sleep with him for a night. A few days later, in a spaceship, Hansen was reading materials of ancient languages using his comlink. He should report to Daphne, but the location for reporting was in a remote galaxy called Dongian. It was already the periphery of the Alliance. If people went beyond Dongian, there was no Shura, but many undeveloped galaxies. Hansen did not know what Daphne's mission was to be located so far away. However, Hansen had smelled trouble. If the warships were serving in some special regions, the traffic would become an obstacle for him to return home. Many people serving special missions would not even return home once during the entire service. It had been a long time since he last logged in Gladiator. Hansen first checked his friend list, wishing to see Queen there. He had improved significantly in fitness, so maybe he would last longer with her. Unfortunately, Queen's name was grayed out. His only friend online was QHC. Hansen used to be very interested in fighting QHC, but he started to feel bored at this point. The fitness level of QHC was around 40. Even if he had grown as well, it was hard for him to reach Hansen's level. Hansen was talking to a middle-aged man at this point. The man was named Lubin, a prominent figure in Ares Martial Hall and even the entire martial hall industry. Although Lubin was just an evolver, he had great talent in leg skills. Killer kicks invented by him was masterful and had been designated as one of the routine skills in the Alliance military. The reason the leg skills were impressive was that Lubin himself was a veteran who had been through a lot of combats against Shura and suffered numerous injuries. The killer kicks was a set of leg skills refined in blood and fire. After retiring, Lubin was hired by Ares Martial Hall as an instructor to teach leg skills, since killer kicks was one of the top leg skills for unevolved persons. However, because most students had never been through life and death situations like Lubin, it was very hard for them to understand the essence of killer kicks. Hansen controlled his strength at the same level as Hansen, but he still felt awkward when fighting the guy. It was not because Hansen had lowered his power. With Hansen's ability to control his own body, he could use his strength well no matter which level his strength was. However, fighting Hansen like this made Hansen feel awkward. Although he had lowered his fitness level, Hansen still had his judgment. In Hansen's eyes, Hansen had too many weaknesses, which made Hansen lose the desire to win. Even if he lowered his strengths, Hansen could still see too many opportunities to beat his opponent. It was simply too easy to win. Hansen could not reduce his judgment, so a fight like this made him feel bored. His fitness was too much greater than yours. Haven't you noticed that he had intentionally suppressed his strength to fight you? That is impossible. Hansen suddenly paused, reflecting on what had happened just now. He felt like what Lubin said did make sense. Otherwise, he would not have that kind of pressure. I'll show you. Lubin did not explain anymore but sent Hansen an invite. In fact, after watching the fight between Hansen and Hansen, Lubin felt an urge to fight. In order to kill someone, you must be determined. With that kind of determination, the murderous intent would be natural. If you try to hide your intention to kill, your determination must be hindered. And if you did not have the determination, your moves would not be as swift. Although he was very swift, he did not leak any intention to kill. That kind of ability was impressive. Even Lubin, who had been through a million fights, had only seen that kind quality in 2 persons. One of the two was himself, and the other was a Shura fighter who was black-horned. Although the Shura was only a black horn fighter, that was the worst fight Lu Bin had ever been through. In the end, although Lu Bin was able to survive, he suffered too bad an injury to keep serving, which was why he left his favorite place, the military. Suddenly seeing someone else with the same kind of ability, Lu Bin was reminded of the bloody fight and felt an itch. Invited by a stranger, Hansen did not think that much, since he would have chosen random match anyway. He simply accepted the invite. Hansen entered the Colosseum, looked to the opposite direction, and saw his opponent smiling at him. Hansen couldn't help feeling nervous, because he also smelled someone like himself. "Friend, which troop were you at?" Before the fight started, Lu Bin did not rush to begin, but smiled and asked. He thought Hansen should also be a veteran. Otherwise it was unlikely he would have this kind of ability. In fact, that was why Lu Bin felt close to Hansen in the first place. "Military secret," Hansen said calmly. He was not being arrogant, but it was really a military secret. Lu Bin suddenly became very calm and made a side kick as sharp as a blade at Hansen. He was so fast and fierce that it was nerve-wracking. The scarier part was that the kick was so sudden that no one saw it coming. That's what killer kicks looked like. Many students who had been instructed by Lu Bin could not help but doubt whether they had learned the skills correctly after watching Lu Bin do it. A soldier on warship suddenly raised his arm to block Lu Bin's kick. Although he took 2 steps back, he only lost 2 points in health. Quite an opponent. He was able to block Lu Bin's kick in time. I wonder who he is. Lu Bin's comrades all felt unexpected. However, no one could answer this question. Even Kai and Hejin did not know a soldier on warship was. Hansen also felt very excited. He did not expect the stranger who sent him an invite was an expert killer with excellent leg skills. Even Hansen felt it was hard to predict Lu Bin's kicks in the beginning, which was why he was having a hard time defending himself. When fighting someone like this, there was only one way to win: may the brave one live. Boom. Hansen no longer stepped back, but made a kick himself, his leg hitting Lu Bin's and making a loud sound. Lu Bin's leg skills were practical, which meant the skills not that unusual. Having learned Panorama, which was an encyclopedia of all kinds of commonly seen skills, Hansen felt it was easy to mimic Lu Bin's killer kicks. In fact, many people could easily imitate the skills, but the true difficulty was how to use it well. Depending on one's capability and mentality, the same leg skills were different when used by different people. It was especially true when it came to these kicks that were designed for life and death battles. This is it. Hiding back is not a soldier's way. Lu Bin yelled in excitement, his legs kicking again as swiftly as wind. Hansen was also extremely excited. Killer kicks against killer kicks. Although only 2 persons were fighting, the audience felt there were 2 troops present, making them thrilled and terrified at the same time. The long legs went up and down like blades, making sounds like metal. Every exchange made the heart of the audience tremble. It was hard to imagine that it was just a simulated fight. The majority of killer kicks was common skills, so the focus was on mentality rather than techniques. Only 7 kicks of killer kicks were exceptions, which were called 7 kill by Lu Bin. The 7 kicks were almost finished in one moment without any pause. One should manage to kick 7 times in one breath. It was extremely pleasing to look at, like a battle axe splitting the earth. Boom. Hansen was unable to block 7 kill and fell back immediately. His health went down significantly, almost reaching the bottom instantaneously. Victory. Wang Daking was excited, and others started to cheer already. However, the cheers only lasted a second. A soldier on warship was already on the ground suddenly stood up. His health bar was almost empty, with only a hair left. The number was down to 2%. Great leg skills. What's the name of it? Hansen asked Lu Bin seriously. 7 kill. Lu Bin laughed and said, "This is my very best work. It is impressive that you could block 6 kicks. 7 kill, noted." Staring at Lu Bin, he said slowly, "Let's do this one more time." "As you wish." Lu Bin could no longer resist the murderous urge. He dashed and jumped up with no hesitation, kicking at Hansen as if his leg was the battle axe that splitted heaven and earth. Hansen did not move, his eyes fixed on Lu Bin. When the kick was about to fall on his head, Hansen suddenly moved. A magnificent step. Using Sparticle, Hansen made an incredibly fast step. 7 kill, Hansen exclaimed, jumping up like Lu Bin did and kicked at his opponent. The strength of the kicks from above was too strong for even Lu Bin, the inventor of 7 kill. After taking 5 takes, Lu Bin could hardly lift his legs. The stubbornness of the veteran made him raise his arms, trying to block the 2 last kicks with his teeth gritted. Boom boom. With 2 loud sounds, Hansen's last 2 kicks were also blocked by Lu Bin. However, Lu Bin's arms were broken in the process and fell limp. The 8th kick, gasped Wang Daking. The reason 7 kill was called that was because after 7 kicks, one's force would be used up and there would be nothing left to make the 8th kick. However, a soldier on warship kicked the 8th times in the air, which was unbelievable. Not only Wang Geiking, but all those who had seen and learned 7 kill knew it was impossible to make the 8th kick, because there was no way for one to leverage on anything in the air. Who is he? Everyone was staring at a soldier on warship, who gradually faded away and left the gladiator platform. The audience could hardly contain themselves. They were either Lu Bin's friends or his students, so they all knew how hard 7 kill were. Many people could not even accomplish 7 kill, let alone the unbelievable 8th kill. The reason that Hansen could make the 8th kick was not that he was better at 7 kill than Lu Bin. In fact, in terms of 7 kill, Hansen was still weaker. The reason was simply that Hansen had studied 7 twists of the Chens, which allowed one to leverage on the air for 7 times if one practiced it well. Hansen had seen 7 twists used by Chen Zichen and Zhu Ting and was very interested in that martial arts. However, Hansen did not find anything similar after a lot of research. In the end, he found a way to leverage on the air briefly. However, that cannot be compared to 7 twists at all. Hansen was only able to accomplish that based on his understanding of 7 twists, which was his limit already. In fact, Hansen really wanted to learn 7 twists, but the family secret like this was so hard to get his hands on. After traveling through half of the Alliance and spaceship, Hansen arrived at Galaxy Donian. When he saw Daphne at a space harbor, Hansen was dazed. Initially, Hansen believed that since even a soldier of its cookhouse was a major, Daphne should at least be an advanced warship, if not the best in the Alliance. However, the Daphne he saw was more like a corvette. Although it looked advanced, it did not possess the same size a main ship did. The interior space of Daphne was indeed luxurious, equipped with lots of devices that Hansen did not recognize. Only when he saw the incredible warframes assigned to the soldiers on board, Hansen knew the place was unusual. All ordinary soldiers were equipped with military super-biological warframes made by the renowned Dege. The military line was much better than the civil line. These warframes were on the same level as Silver Killer, and the performance of SKTS not even be compared with them. And these warframes were already the worst on board. New soldier Hansen is here to report to the cookhouse. Hansen saluted to the squad leader of the cookhouse. The squad leader was around 30 years old and quite fat. He was almost as wide as he was tall. Hansen felt that was the perfect expression to describe him. Have you learned to cook before? I have only learned how to deal with the meat of creatures briefly at school, sir, answered Hansen. The cookhouse is not like other places, so you could relax a little bit. The entire staff of the cookhouse were easygoing. Because of what they did, they were not as uptight as other soldiers and have less training as well. The mission of Daphne this time was to look for a remnant of crystallizer civilization. Before humans even entered the interstellar era, the crystallizers had built an empire in the universe. They used to be the master of a dozen galaxies, but they eventually became extinct for some reasons no one knew. People could only feel how great they were from the relics they left behind. After a couple of days, Hansen had become friends with the soldiers of the cookhouse. When he was taking a break, he saw the fat squad leader holding his comlink watching a video, and felt curious. What else other than the video of 8 kill? Our fatty has a grand vision. He would love to become a fatty who could fly, Vice Squad Leader Liu Mingling joked. What 8 kill? Hansen glanced at the video and couldn't help opening his mouth, because the video the fat squad leader was watching was exactly the fight between Lu Bin and himself. F#K off. I just want to learn killer kicks, grunted the fat squad leader. Seeing his round body and short legs, Hansen could not imagine what it would look like if fat squad leader jumped in the air to make 7 kicks. Hansen had not been to the warship for long, so he had not met the captain yet. Taking the document to the captain's cabin, Hansen had been wondering who it was. In order to become a captain of such a high-level warship, one had to be at least a general. Even though this warship was not that big. This is the nutrition plan for next month, and we need the captain's signature. Hansen came to the sanctuary's desk and showed her the document. Sure, the captain had told me about it. She's busy right now, so you can just go ahead and put the file there. The secretary checked the document and said to Hansen, "Okay," Hansen replied, turned around and walked to the captain's cabin with the document in his hand. He knocked on the door, but there was no one answering. Since the secretary told him to put it inside, Hansen pushed the door open and entered the room. However, after the door was pushed open, Hansen saw someone leaning against the desk opposite the door smiling at him. Hansen was suddenly dumbstruck, and then became overjoyed. He shut the door close, threw the document away, dashed to the person, and held her tightly in his arms. Oh my god, I am not dreaming, right? Hell, why are you here? Hansen was so excited that he did not even know what he was talking about. He did not imagine that he would meet Jai Yanran at this place. Jai Yanran, who was wearing white captain suit, was standing right there, gorgeous as always, but more handsome than when she was a student. I'm sorry, I brought you here without your consent, and I could only arrange for you to become a soldier in the cookhouse. However, this is everything I could do. Although I know it's not fair to you, I could not stand another day without you being close to me. I am selfish and wanton, but would you forgive me? Jai Yanran threw her arms around Hansen's neck and hung herself on him like a koala bear, her tone full of guilt and love. I love that you are selfish and wanton. Hansen quickly kissed her on the lips and spanked her ass a little. Jai Yanran's face became pink. Embarrassed, she said, "Don't mess around. There is a surveillance camera here." "No way, there is a surveillance camera in the captain's cabin," Hansen said incredulously. Jai Yanran blinked and said, "Daphne is warship that carries out exploration missions. Even as the captain, I do not have the absolute power. In fact, I am only in a supportive role. Those who are really in charge are the experts and scholars on crystallizer civilization. So, you're just a driver of a flying bus," Hansen said, not letting Jai Yanran go. She did not mind people watching. He did not care because it was more than natural for him to kiss and hug his wife. Jai Yanran curled her lips and said, "That's one way to put it. My main mission is to send the scholars and experts to their destination. Provide them with staff members and help. When it comes to excavation and fieldwork, it is completely up to the experts. You should have heard that the mental power of crystallizers is so powerful that they could control objects with their mind." Jai Yanran thought about it and said, "I've heard something about it." Hansen asked curiously again, "Is that all true?" "Maybe, I don't know for sure. But one thing was certain, crystallizers have many crystal technologies. The most commonly seen is a sort of memory crystal. Humans with strong mental power could put their memory inside the memory crystal and read from it. That is much more advanced than our AI, Jai Yanran explained. Hansen knew that Jai Yanran would never harm himself, so he put the crystal on his forehead, ready to perceive anything. The next second, Hansen suddenly felt electricity was generated from the crystal and penetrated his scope, making his brain a bit numb, which scared him into taking the crystal away from his forehead. Jai Yanran took a file from her desk and placed it in front of Hansen. She turned the pages over quickly and asked Hansen to look at the contents. After going through the entire file, she closed the file and put it back, asking, "What is the sixth word on the third line of page 13? You were so fast. How could I possibly?" As Hansen was about to say how could he possibly remember, he suddenly had the memory of that page in his mind. He remembered clearly that the sixth word of the third line was black. How is that possible? Is it the crystal? Hansen looked at the purple crystal in surprise. "These must be highly confidential. Is it okay you're telling me?" Hansen asked Jai Yanran. "These are indeed confidential, and you do not have the clearance yet. However, you're my boyfriend and I am no selfless captain. Just a woman. But don't tell anyone about these, otherwise I would be in trouble." Jai Yanran spit out her little tongue. "Didn't you say there is a surveillance camera? Huh? How dare you play me? You are so done." Hansen suddenly understood that he was played by Jai Yanran, grabbed her, held her down to the desk and spanked her hard. "I did not lie to you. There is really a surveillance camera. It's just I turned it off temporarily. I know you would be so promiscuous." Trying to ignore the sensation on her ass, Jai Yanran whispered, "All right, I will show you how promiscuous I could be." Hansen suddenly pulled Jai Yanran's white captain pants down. When Hansen left the captain's cabin, he felt very refreshed and relaxed. The thought of the captain's suit and tender skin of Jai Yanran gave Hansen an urge to return to captain's cabin and stay there forever. However, that was quite unlikely. Jai Yanran had already told Hansen some information about Daphne. Although Jai Yanran was the captain, she was too young and inexperienced. If it were not for her family, she would not even be recognized as the captain because she was just a rookie evolver. In addition, Daphne was a special warship. There was a professor that had the same power as Jai Yanran, so she had to obey him at times. In addition, if others knew Hansen was Jai Yanran's lover and that he was on the ship because of her, they would probably think even less of Jai Yanran, making it harder for her to stay in the management role. Hansen knew it was not easy for Jai Yanran to get him on board, so he was unwilling to see her getting in trouble because of him. When there was no one around, they could call each other using the special comlink on board. Occasionally, they could even meet each other in secret, to which Hansen was looking forward. Feels like a clandestine love affair. Hansen thought to himself contentedly and started to hum a little song. Boom. Hansen was still thinking about the romance just now. Because it was on the warship, he let his guard down completely and wasn't paying attention. As he turned around the corner, he bumped into someone immediately. Hansen had just been through some strenuous exercise, so his legs were still limp. You're lucky that I'm in a great mood, so I will just let you off the hook for the time being. Hansen continued to walk forward joyfully. What's wrong with you? I was talking to you. Did you not hear me? Which department are you from? The man became mad and quickly grabbed Hansen. What does it have to do with you? Hansen frowned and said, although he was being careless, he was not walking fast. There was no way he would bump into someone directly. The main reason that the guy bumped into him was that the guy did not change his course at all after seeing him. Otherwise, with Hansen's reflex, there was no way they would bump into each other so hard. You don't even look like a soldier. Stand straight. The man snorted. Whether the cookhouse soldiers look like soldiers, it is up to me instead of the Warframe department. Colonel Wang, please mind your own department's business. The fat squad leader suddenly appeared and said to the guy coldly, Colonel Luo, I can't even point it out when your soldier is bumping into people and humming songs. Is that what you're saying? Wang Hu stared at fat squad leader coldly. Yes, that's our hobby. Bite me. The fat squad leader's reply even surprised Hansen. Wang Hu's face suddenly turned purple as he was rendered speechless. Why are you staying here? The fat squad leader said to Hansen and took him away. Wang Hu bristled. When the fat squad leader and Hansen walked far, Wang Hu murmured to himself, why did Jai Yanran keep a cookhouse soldier in her office for so long? If it were not for the stupid fatty, I should have fished more information. Great job, Colonel. After returning to the cookhouse, Hansen gave the fat squad leader a thumbs up. Break my ass. I asked you to send a nutrition plan. What took you so long? The fat squad leader said, upset. After the captain reviewed the plan, she asked me a few questions. Since I'm new here, I know nothing and gave her all the wrong answers, which was why it took so long. She even scolded me a little. After that I bumped into Colonel Wang. You are such a saver to be there on time. Hansen had thought his excuse out for a while. Do not cross Wang Hu in the future, said the fat squad leader. Thank you, Colonel. Although Hansen was not afraid of Wang Hu, it was a troublesome situation. He was very grateful that the fat squad leader took him away. Jai Yanran had told him that everyone on Daphne had a complicated background, so he should not take anyone lightly. You are one of mine, so I will not let anyone else touch you. If you need to be disciplined, I'll be the one to do so. The fat squad leader hit Hansen on the back and said, go to your job. Because it was about 3 months until they could reach the planet where the ruins were, Hansen swapped a few shifts and applied to enter God's sanctuary. This time he teleported to God's sanctuary. He was still in the ice cave. This time, however, there were 7 to 8 people in the ice cave, chatting with each other. Z was also there. Hansen, what took you so long? Here, I will introduce everyone to you. Maybe it was because of the difficult living conditions. Everyone knew the benefit of help each other. The majority of the group were very easygoing and easy to talk to. Genius, you are here as well. The young man suddenly exclaimed at Hansen. You are. Hansen regarded the young man and found his face did not ring a bell. My name is Liu Feng. I also graduated from Blackhawk 1 year before you did. But my grades were just average, so it makes sense that you don't know me. Liu Feng smiled and said, what genius. Liu Feng, Hansen is your schoolmate. Ziyu asked in surprise. Liu Feng told the group about Hansen's needs at Blackhawk. After a long while, Ziyu lamented, I did not realize that you are a graduate of a top school, and even graduated as a major. You should have a much brighter future than this. This place would make it so difficult for you to go any further. Not necessarily. As long as we occupy that spirit shelter, we will have everything. Hansen smiled and said. There was teleport device in the spirit shelter, so if they could occupy the place, they could turn that into a human shelter. All they needed to do was to withstand the attacks from creatures nearby. Young man, this is much more difficult than that. This is second God's sanctuary, not a military school where kids hang. You can really die here. Don't think that you are going to conquer everything because you are somebody in a military school. I will give it to you if you hunt any creature back. You don't even need to take the spirit shelter down. Genius, don't pay him any mind. He used to be quite talented and evolved with sacred geno points maxed out but ended up here, and was trapped for nearly 20 years. He did not even have many mutant geno points, so he have lost the will to fight, said Zivu. Hansen looked to the middle-aged man, surprised. A sacred evolver 20 years ago, that was much harder to achieve than a sacred evolver today. And he must be truly something. Even that kind of person became this way, which made Hansen feel sad. The middle-aged man kept silent, squatting in the corner, taking one puff after another from the cigarette in his hand. With so many people here, why don't we go hunting? Hansen asked. We are waiting for Uncle King. I told you last time, he was the strongest among us. If we go together with him, it will be safer. Uncle King looks after the young. I will introduce you later. You can hunt with us today, right? How come I never saw the girl from the other day? Did she give up? I'm not so sure. Hansen knew he was talking about Zero. After Hansen boarded Daphne, he could no longer use his private link to contact anyone. So Hansen had told Zero to enter God's sanctuary in 2 months to meet him. Hansen did not expect to be able to enter God's sanctuary so soon, and he had no way to tell her to come, so he will have to wait until the agreed time. I will walk around myself to get familiar with the environment first. Hansen walked outside directly, not planning to hunt together with the rest of the group. If he made no efforts, he would not be shared the gains. If he made efforts, it would be very suspicious for someone who just evolved to have his fitness. Therefore, Hansen decided to hunt on his own, not following the rest of the group. Haven't I told you already? You are not familiar with this place, and it's too dangerous outside. Even if you want to hunt yourself, you should follow us for a few times and go along later. Otherwise, it is truly too dangerous, said Zuyu. Hansen knew they meant well, but he had his own concerns and did not want to waste time on meaningless stuff. I have already looked it up on the Skynet and learned something about this place. I will just take a walk and be back in a minute. When Hansen was far from the ice cave, he summoned Meowth to run to the mountain. Before long, he suddenly heard a beast roar. A white creature with ice-like armor covering its back was growling at Hansen and Meowth. Is this the ice-armored beast Zuyu was talking about? Hansen gazed at the creature, which looked a lot like what Zuyu had described. As Hansen was thinking, the ice-armored beast rushed toward Hansen, growling. Its speed was even faster than the sacred blood beast creatures in First God's sanctuary. Hansen stepped back, while Meowth had already thrown itself at the ice-armored beast. The two beasts started to fight in ice and snow. Meowth only had a slight advantage, and it would take a while for Meowth to beat its opponent. Hansen frowned secretly. The ice-armored beast was just a primitive creature, but it already had the same strength as Meowth, which was a sacred blood beast from First God's sanctuary. Indeed, Second God's sanctuary was not the same thing as the first. Wherever covered by the ice armor on the ice-armored beast, Meowth's claws and teeth could not penetrate. Meowth could only choose the places covered by white fur to attack, making the ice-armored beast all bloody and miserable. Meowth itself also suffered some scratches, which were not serious. Hansen had a brief understanding about the ability of the ice-armored beast, and was ready to kill it himself. However, the ice-armored beast suddenly roared, and all its injuries started to heal quickly. In the meantime, the ice armor also spread to cover all its body. It turned into a crystal statue. Even its claws became transparent. Although it looked the same, the ice-armored beast had a completely different aura. It suddenly turned from an average beast to a super boss. Berserk. Hansen was both surprised and overjoyed. Unlike First God's sanctuary, some creatures could enter a berserk state in Second God's sanctuary. The state was like the hypergeno arts that could change the structure of body cells. In the berserk state, the structure of creatures' body cells would change significantly, enhancing the creature's strengths and ability to fight. Of course, if one were able to hunt a creature at the berserk state, the beast's soul gained would also be at the berserk state, which would be much stronger than an average beast of the same level. After its whole body was covered with ice armor, even the claws of Meowth could only leave a few shallow marks. The ice-armored beast suddenly became fearless, ignoring Meowth's attacks, going crazy and trying to devour the pet. Hansen took Meowth back, because it was no longer the match of the berserk ice-armored beast. In addition, Hansen wanted to try for himself how strong the berserk beast was. After losing its target Meowth, the ice-armored beast fixed its eyes on Hansen. With a growl, it quickly ran toward Hansen on all four hooves. When it was 50 feet from Hansen, it suddenly jumped at him. Careful, Hansen. A yelp came from somewhere close. A woman wearing Arctic suits started to run to Hansen while exclaiming. Hansen turned to look at the woman and was suddenly dazed, unable to believe his eyes. It turned out that young Manly was here as well. After she evolved, she was also randomly sent to this place. Idiot, what are you looking at? Just run. Young Manly saw that Hansen turned to look at herself at such a critical moment and became shocked and anxious. If her shout did not save him, but harmed him, then it would be the worst thing ever. Watching the berserk ice-armored beast almost at his face, with its claws reflecting cold light, Hansen was still staring at young Manly, which made her scared and mad. However, she could not even make it in time if she wanted to save him. At this point, young Manly regretted that she came out directly after hearing Hansen was here as well. If she did not do that, Hansen might be able to dodge these attacks. However, he was now doomed. She came much earlier than Hansen did and knew how strong ice-armored beasts were. In addition, this one was a berserk beast. Even a sacred evolver could not take one blow from a berserk ice-armored beast before having his neck snapped. Watching the ice-armored beast making the attack, young Manly almost wanted to close her eyes. However, the next second, she stared her eyes wide. Hansen was staring at her blankly but punched at the incoming berserk beast without even looking at it. The punch ended right in the beast's face. Boom! The berserk ice-armored beast that looked very fierce was blown away like it was a puppet, crushing a huge chunk of iceberg and then sliding on the ice for a dozen feet, plowing deeply in the snow. Blood was everywhere, and the beast stopped moving. Young Manly froze up, staring at Hansen as if she was looking at the ghost. She did not move for a long while in the storm, killing a berserk ice-armored beast with one blow. Young Manly could not believe that this person was Hansen, who had just become an evolver. Berserk ice-armored beast killed. Beast soul of berserk ice-armored beast gained. Eat its meat to gain 0 to 10 primitive geno points. Hearing the voice in his mind, Hansen smiled. A beast soul gained from the first creature he killed in Second God's Sanctuary. This was definitely a good sign. Young Manly, I did not expect you would be here as well. Is there a special squad here? Hansen did not mind the body of the beast and asked Young Manly. Young Manly had just come to herself, looking at Hansen and the body of the beast, and said, "Before you come, I am the only special squad member. When I just heard you are here, I did not believe it. It turns out you are really in this shithole as well. You know where this is. What is the closest human shelter?" Hansen asked. That was what he really wanted to know. I don't know. I don't even know where in Second God's Sanctuary we are. At least so far. No one was able to walk out of here to find other people. Young Manly shook her head and said, "This place is all right. If there are not a lot of people, no one could steal creatures from us." Hansen shrugged and walked to the body of the berserk ice-armored beast. "But first you need to." Young Manly was trying to say that you first need to kill the creature, but thinking of Hansen's punch, she swallowed the rest of her sentence back. Hansen summoned the golden growler, put the body of the ice-armored beast on its back and then rode on it himself. He waved to Young Manly and asked, "Is there any place nearby that we could hide from the storm? Let's take a break and eat some meat." Young Manly hesitated, but jumped on the golden growler's back, guiding Hansen to a cave nearby. Hansen dissected the ice-armored beast's body with the cursed wolf dagger, took out the tools to make fire, and started to barbecue some meat with a beast's soul arrow as the skewer. He used a pot for making soup as well. Did he really just evolve? Young Manly was still thinking of the punch Hansen used to kill the berserk ice-armored beast. As a sacred evolver, she could not achieve that at all. Even she punched the beast 100 times. There was no way she could kill a berserk ice-armored beast. Have you heard of the name Hanjingjai? Hansen looked at Young Manly and asked casually. Hearing the name, Young Manly's expression suddenly changed. Although she quickly came back to normal, Hansen still noticed it. With Hanjingjai, Young Manly frowned and asked. Instructor Hanjingjai of Blue Blood Special Force, the Qigong Master, Hansen replied. You know about Hanjingjai? Young Manly expression changed again. She was surprised that Hansen knew the name Hanjingjai. So, she knows about Hanjingjai as well. Hansen thought and said quietly, my great-grandfather is also named Hanjingjai. What? Instructor Han is your great-grandfather? That is impossible, Young Manly exclaimed. What's with the reaction? I only said my great-grandfather's name is Hanjingjai, but I did not say he is that instructor of Blue Blood Special Force. Hansen smiled at Young Manly. Young Manly suddenly became silent, watching Hansen while biting her lips. If Hansen was really the descendant of Hanjingjai, it was not strange that he had that kind of power. However, in Young Manly's eyes, it was simply impossible, given that Hanjingjai did not have any children to begin with. Hansen handed a meat skewer to Young Manly, but Young Manly did not reach out her hand. She bit her lip and said, I did not make any contribution, so this is not mine. Hansen smiled, put the arrow in her hand and said, you used to be my subordinate, and I expect you to keep following me. I can't guarantee anything else but food. Young Manly looked at the skewer, wanting to give it back to Hansen in a dignified way. But her hand did not move. She was looking down on Hansen in the first place. After King Chuan left, she gave the position of the head of the special squad to Hansen instead of Young, which made Young Manly even more upset about Hansen. Although later on, Young Manly realized Hansen's abilities. As an arrogant lady, she was not willing to bow her head to him. If it was before, young Manly would have thrown the meat back to Hansen's face on hearing his words, because there was no way that young Manly would willingly take orders from Hansen. However, after a long time spent in Second God's sanctuary, young Manly had suffered a lot and came to understand how hard it was to hunt anything in this place. After eating 4 pieces meat and drinking a bowl of soup, she then stopped, gritted her teeth, and asked Hansen, "Tell me, what do you want? Don't act as if I am going to rape you. I just want you to become my subordinate and do some things for me." Hansen looked at young Manly, not knowing what to say. The look on the woman's face was like some heroine who was going to sacrifice herself for her country. "What can I do?" Young Manly paused. "There are many things you can do. For example, you could manage the spirit shelter after I conquer it, collect some protection fee, sell some meat, and recruit a couple of people." Hansen pointed at the spirit shelter on the big mountain. Young Manly could not help saying coldly, "You are ahead of yourself. Don't expect to conquer the spirit shelter just because you could kill a berserk beast. There are at least a dozen mutant creatures and an aristocrat spirit inside the shelter. Do you have any idea what kind of beings they are? Any mutant creature has a fitness level of at least 50, and the stronger ones among them would be 70 or 80. You are right, and thinking in the right direction. However, I don't have so much time to waste. That's why I want to conquer that spirit shelter in 1 month," Hansen said calmly. "Take the remaining meat and go back first." Hansen ate some barbecued meat, but because the ice-armored beast was too big in size, the meat he ate did not even bring him a single primitive geno points. So he simply decided to stop eating. "Me? Bring this back alone." Young Manly looked at Hansen incredulously. Initially, she thought Hansen would ask something in return for giving her such benefit. "Otherwise, should I ask you to join me to conquer the spirit shelter?" Hansen looked at her with a smile. Young Manly became flushed, squeezing her fists tight without saying a word. Although Hansen did not say it, she found that she had become a burden, a useless burden. Moreover, it was in front of someone she used to despise, which made young Manly so ashamed that she wished she could disappear in a hole. "Wait for me to come back." Hansen naturally did not understand what she was thinking. In his view, young Manly was someone trustworthy in the shelter, so he simply wanted to get her assistance. He did not have any other thoughts. Hansen had long forgotten about those things in the past, because young Manly did not really do anything to him. To the contrary, she even taught him archery. Hansen packed his stuff and waved goodbye to young Manly, walking out of the cave and disappearing in the storm. Watching Hansen leave, young Manly's expression became complicated. She did not realize until this very moment that each time she saw Hansen, he was changing. Hansen marched toward the big snow mountain where the spirit shelter was located. It would be the best if he could take it down himself. If he was not lucky, he could at least do some hunting and wait for Zero to come. Although the path to the mountain looked straightforward, it actually took a lot of time to reach. When Hansen had rode on the golden growler for more than half a day, he had not reached the mountain yet. In front of him, there was suddenly a huge ice cliff more than 1,000 feet wide in front of him. Looking down the cliff, Hansen couldn't see the bottom of it. The deeper it got, the narrower it was. Gradually, it became a black line that looked like the entrance to hell. When Hansen was about to summon the golden rock worm king to carry him over in the air, he suddenly heard a weird noise from deep down the cliff. The noise was consistent and rapid, as if someone was chiseling the ice repeatedly. Hansen looked down the cliff, and the noise became more and more clear. Before long, Hansen saw what was making the noise. On the ice wall of the cliff, a huge furry white spider quickly climbed up the ice cliff, waving its sickle-like claws. It seemed that it had noticed Hansen and thought of him as its prey. Not knowing how strong the spider was, Hansen summoned the golden rock worm king and commanded it to charge the spider. Although it seemed impressive, the white spider should be just a primitive creature. After a few blows, the golden rock worm king cut the white spider into pieces. Primitive creature snow spider killed. No beast soul gained. Eat its meat to gain 0 to 10 primitive geno points. Hansen was pleased. Although the snow spider was huge as a spider, it was just slightly larger than a basketball. Although its legs were long, Hansen did not think there was much meat in them, so it was very easy to eat. Looking at the cuts made by the golden rock worm king, Hansen saw gel-like transparent meat and couldn't help swallowing. Based on his years of experience, this was the best kind of meat. Tasty and sweet. As Hansen was about to collect the body of the spider, he quickly felt something was wrong, because the crackling sounds did not disappear, but became more rapid. Hansen looked up and saw that waves of snow spiders were coming out of the ice cliff like an avalanche. Hansen was not afraid of these snow spiders at all. No matter how many they were, they could only make his meal better. However, when Hansen was about to take action, he suddenly saw a white leg as thick as a utility pole dotted with foot-long barbs reaching above, followed by a few spider legs equally huge. Hansen almost jumped on the back of Golden Rock Worm King without thinking, rising in the air on the back of his pet. Looking down, he saw a giant snow spider coming out of the ice cliff. It was so big in size that it could probably swallow a man with one bite. Hansen did not know whether the huge spider was a mutant creature or a sacred blood creature. He would not be afraid of a mutant creature, but a sacred blood creature might pose a challenge. When Hansen was observing the giant snow spider, it suddenly opened its mouth. A white rope as thick as a baby's arm flew at Hansen and the Golden Rock Worm King. Damn it, run! Hansen wanted to order the Golden Rock Worm King to fly higher, but it was too late already. The white robe had already caught one of the Golden Rock Worm King's claws. The Golden Rock Worm King quickly tried to cut the rope with its other claws. However, its sharp claws turned out to be glued together by the white rope. The snow spider tugged on the white robe hard. Although it was quickly flapping its four wings, the Golden Rock Worm King could not resist the strength of the spider, and was pulled down toward the spider by the white robe. Sacred blood creature. Hansen was shocked. He did not have the ability to kill a sacred blood creature yet. It was unnecessary to risk his life, seeing that he was about to be dragged toward the spider together with the Golden Rock Worm King. Hansen no longer dared to hesitate and summoned the desert bird and cursed wolf dagger. The desert bird flapped its wings and turned into a red and golden firebird, hovering over Hansen's head, giving the cursed wolf dagger and Golden Rock Worm King a golden red glow. With the effect of the aura from the desert bird, the Golden Rock Worm King's wings became stronger. Flapping its wings hard, it was trying to get rid of the spider's tugging. However, strength like that was obviously not enough. The Golden Rock Worm King was still dragged toward the mouth of the spider, only at a lower speed. Hansen was standing on the back of the Golden Rock Worm King and quickly shapeshifted into the Fairy Queen, using Heresy Mantra and Overload at the same time. His entire body was filled with incredible strength all of a sudden. His muscles shaking and heart pounding. Cut. Hansen slashed the cursed wolf dagger at the white rope. He felt that the dagger was stuck in something stiff and sticky, but he could not let go at this point. So, he had to make the slash even harder. The white robe was deformed significantly and broke eventually. The broken rope bounced back to the mouth of the giant snow spider. Hansen quickly took back the Golden Rock Worm King that had just regained its freedom, landed on the snow, and quickly ran away. Sacred blood creatures should have a fitness index at least above 80. Many sacred blood creatures even had a fitness level above 100. This giant snow spider clearly had surpassed 80. Hansen did not want to take the risks himself. Even if he wanted to kill it, he should wait for Zero to come. Seeing Hansen was running away, the giant snow spider opened its mouth again, and another white shadow came at Hansen. Hansen was nimble enough to dodge the white rope and quickly ran forward. Snow spiders chased after him like an avalanche. The giant snow spider was especially fast, coming forward 100 feet with each move. Didn't they say there were only an aristocrat spirit and a dozen mutant creatures in the spirit shelter? How come there is a sacred blood spider? Hansen felt quite upset. However, it was normal when he thought about it. The aristocrat spirit couldn't not control a sacred blood creature, so it was only natural that the giant snow spider was running wild. Hansen could not get rid of the giant snow spider. After running for a while, there was no way to go anymore. Cliffs were everywhere. Hansen wanted to summon the Golden Rock Worm King to carry him over, but he suddenly heard a shrill bird song from under the cliff, with sounds of flapping. A giant black feathered bird as dark as ink flew up from the cliff, its wings 100 feet across. That's #T. God, you don't need to play with me like this. Can we be friends or not? Birds were the type of creatures that Hansen feared the most. Back in the days, he was almost killed by a silver bird and had to escape by jumping into a river, running into a huge bird again. Hansen felt ominous. Indeed, the black bird immediately threw itself at Hansen after coming up. Its speed was like a black tornado, fast and fierce and scary. Even if he were thinking with his butt, Hansen would know this was a sacred blood creature, given the bird dared to snatch food from the giant snow spider. Judging by the speed of the black birds, Hansen knew it must be something extraordinary. Lamenting his bad luck, Hansen had no way to go with the giant snow spider chasing him in the back and the black bird blocking the road in the front. If he were to summon the Golden Rock Worm King to carry him into the air at this point, he would be feeding himself to the blackbird. No matter how fast the Golden Rock Worm King was, there was no way it could be faster than this sacred blood creature. Hansen decided not to escape. After shapeshifting into the Fairy Queen, his golden pupils started to sparkle, taking in every move of the giant snow spider and blackbird. The moment when the blackbird dashed down, Hansen quickly moved away from its claws. As the spider silk was thrown at Hansen, he managed to dodge it as well. Hansen moved left and right, but did not seem to be too awkward. He managed to dodge all the attacks from the two sacred blood creatures without getting hurt. If young Manly was there to witness that, she would probably stare her eyes out. Among evolvers, maybe only those who had a fitness index above 100 could achieve that. Although Hansen did not have the physique as strong as the creatures, he was a human equipped with intelligence and techniques. As long as the difference was not too huge, it was not hard for him to face these creatures. Hansen had used Sparticle to its extreme. More importantly, the kiting skills he learned from Queen turned him into a Go player, leading the two stronger sacred blood creatures into his traps. Ever since he had learned kiting skills from Queen, Hansen had been studying it in depth. Every step, every turn, and every pause were made with a strong sense of purpose. Although it might be too early to tell, the benefits were becoming more and more obvious. The spider silk did not touch Hansen, but caught the claws of the blackbird. Flapping desperately with its wings, the blackbird did not manage to hit Hansen, but hit the giant snow spider, which was led there by Hansen instead. There had been more and more coincidences like this. The two sacred blood creatures did not manage to hurt Hansen, but injured each other quite a lot.